What's up, guys? Welcome back to Modern Craftsman Monday.
Monday. It's
John's just laughing. Literally just laughing in the background.
I hope you guys had a good Halloween, and girls.
Oh, that's right.
You're so smart, Tyler.
Seriously.
I was like, it's not Halloween.
Leaps and bounds above me.
Hope everyone got lots of candy, brushed your teeth very well, flossed,
And took all your kids good candy.
got a little exercise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're safe.
Who do we have on this week, John?
Travis.
And Travis. And what's Joe Cook? You liked his name.
Yeah, I do like his name. I think it's a dope name.
John was like,
Joe
yeah,
Cook.
man, what a great name. I was like,
I hate my name.
I feel like it's
You
a
hate
pretty
your
normal
name?
name.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
You could change it.
Yeah, that's why I like. I know, but I'm not going to.
No.
So
Change it to
John.
Vintage Hourihan.
Yeah.
Johnny
Jonathan.
Vintage.
You know how many
What's he, a
bags?
porn star? Johnny Vintage? What the heck's wrong with this dude?
Oh, so we got Travis and Joe from Catalyst Built talking this week. Travis is also known from the BS and Beer show. We were on his show a couple months ago. I feel like they do
everywhere.
a lot. Yeah. It's like I'm constantly seeing them pop up, which is super cool. But you'll find out that he's got a laundry list of things he wants to talk about, and we talk about one of them.
Yeah.
We got it away. We got it out of the way in the beginning.
Yeah.
What's up, Kansas?
Yo, Kansas.
Was it Dorothy? Am I on
Yes.
the right show?
That's a movie. The Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
Wizard of Oz.
They're from,
That's in Kansas.
They're from Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
No, we're in Missouri.
Oh, Halloween. I wonder who's going to be the Wizard of Oz for this Halloween. It's usually a pretty standard Halloween costume. You can usually see a few Dorothy's, some Totos, the Tin Man.
Tin Man's the man. All right, guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. The holy grail of exterior trim and siding is a material that can be milled into virtually any profile, is easy to work with, is extremely stable, has unmatched durability, and looks just like wood when it's painted. That's exactly what you get with Duration products. To learn more about Duration, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com. Be sure to check them out on Instagram. This podcast is also brought to you by Reno Run.
You know who? Wait, hold on. Do you know where their new city is?
Philly, I believe.
Philly. What are the chances of all the cities that they could choose? Philly.
Well, they went Boston. They went to Boston.
Yeah.
They were like, all right, we got Nick and John.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I think that's
Philly's
why they
close
did it.
To Tyler.
Yeah. Must be why they did it.
I don't know why they hit Chicago, but they did get Chicago. And I hear they're popping into a few other cities coming up.
You gotta keep an ear out.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the list. I don't have the list. I just know that there's a list.
Yeah. So basically, that company.
It's a rumor. It's a rumor.
You can sign up for their subscription. You can get their app, and you can order whether it's materials, even if it's just coffee, and get it delivered to the job site. I think that they're saying that they can deliver in as little as 2 hours. So, it's a pretty quick turnaround. It's something you can obviously get done in advance, but it's instead of sending somebody to the job site, if you work the numbers on it, it's very affordable, less than an employee and way less liability than putting an employee in one of your vans and trucks. It's really a no-brainer. If you have a big company, even if it's not a huge company, but sending people to run out and do errands and not have somebody on the job does not make that much sense when you have a company like this.
I haven't used them for the coffee. I'm sitting here wondering, like, would they go pick up my custom coffee order?
Yeah, I mean, they say that, they'll go to the hardware store and they'll get you coffee.
Oh, if there's all right.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to go in and order like whatever sort of chocolate French latte you get with whipped cream, but they probably grab a bunch of coffee.
I would hope that strawberry colada or something like that,
Maybe. I mean, I don't know how affordable it's going to be if you're just getting them to bring a coffee to you every day.
No, that they're going to start charging me for that.
Yeah.
But if you do want free delivery, sign up by going to podcast.renorun. That's renorun.com/Modern Craftsman. Where you guys out of again?
Right now, my garage. We run a lean operation, man. We don't have an office. We're out of Prairie Village, Kansas. It's right outside of Kansas City.
Ah, Kansas. That's right. Cool.
It's right on the Missouri line. So like everyone.
Kansas City?
Yeah.
So you're in Kansas or in Missouri?
We're in Kansas. Which is why I got a bone to pick with John. You guys are always shitting on Kansas. I got problems, man. We got great architects.
Let's start right there. Let's start right there, please.
All right. I spread it out evenly, like a P&J sandwich.
It just smeared.
Yep.
Smear everywhere.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Shit smear.
I'm an equal opportunity hater. I hate people from the Northwest, the Northeast, Florida. I don't care, man. No.
If people build shit, I'm not a fan. It doesn't matter where you're from.
That's fair. We don't build any shit.
So no. So we're good. That's why you're on the podcast.
Sweet. Well, I guess we already squashed it. We got anything else to talk about? Or are we done?
So you guys work primarily in Missouri?
No, we work primarily in
That's Tyler. He just slides those in.
Yeah, you're quick with that wit. No, the Missouri side kind of sucks to work on. Their organizational system is challenged because Kansas City, Missouri is massive. Like Kansas side, it's all broken up. There's 7, 8 different jurisdictions that we work in. But Kansas City, Missouri is like, I don't know, like 60 miles north to south.
One jurisdiction. And then to top it all off, I think every 4 years we pay $400 or $500 for our general contractor's license and electrical license. And in Kansas, we're paying, double that, or no, almost $2,000 every year for it. So it's
Why did they name a city in Missouri that's so close to Kansas City?
The nearest major city to Kansas City on the Missouri side. Major city? That's rough. I mean, Columbia is a couple hours east of us. St. Louis is all on the other side, man.
I just feel like that's very confusing. That'd be like naming Philadelphia Jersey City. Well, there is a Jersey City.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
It's because of the river, man. Everything's sprung up around the river. So on the west side of the river, it's Kansas, and that's where the stockyards and like the history of Kansas City is a cow town. That's all on the Kansas side. But we haven't been a cow town for a long time. Like there's nobody slabbing beef over here anymore. We make great barbecue, but there's not a cattle industry driving up from Texas through Kansas City and then hopping on ports. So the Missouri side, that's where most of the art, the sports teams, the galleries, everything that's big business, Kansas City is the Missouri side. But I don't know. I think the Kansas side is just a lot more organized. All the code compliance stuff, all the jurisdictions, people are sharp over here. They have really good support in our county. Johnson County has fantastic contractor licensing programs. So the standards are really high. So we prefer to associate ourselves with the Kansas side because of that.
It's really upselling this Kansas, huh, John?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I don't even know if I realized that Kansas City was in Missouri, was right next to Kansas.
I thought it was just a fairy tale. It was in that, like,
it is a dream.
Tap your heels.
It feels like a dream.
Yeah.
It's that good.
So you going to introduce the Travis 2.0 or just leave him for the listeners to figure out?
You got Joe on there.
Yeah, for us.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but you didn't.
How close
else
you guys
watching
to
this?
How close you guys to Missouri City?
He's still stuck.
Missouri City. I believe there is a Missouri City, Missouri.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm always late, so I never ask anybody why you're late. Or like I'm like, I get it. Been there.
I'm with you, John. I feel like if you're within 5 minutes, you're not late. And if if one of those like 20 minutes early or you're not on time people, we can't get along. Like you're wasting 20 minutes every time. Every time, man. Who's got 20 minutes to waste?
Yeah,
I
there's
would love
the
to be
people
more
you
on
just
time.
tell them that the meeting's a half hour earlier than it is. So then they show up 10 minutes early.
I think my wife does
My
that
wife-
about everything.
Yeah, my wife definitely does that. She's like, dinner's at 6. I get there. She's like, we have to be there at 6:37. I was
Yeah.
like, nice work.
Smart.
Or it's not even cooked and you're at home.
Yeah.
She's like, that's got an hour.
Yeah. All right. So Travis, you have this business partner?
Yeah.
Is this you?
Introduce
Joe,
yourself, Joe.
introduce yourself.
Joe Cook. Yeah, Travis's business partner,
Great name, Joe Cook. I'm jealous.
and
Really?
Like-
Yeah,
Well-
Joe Cook.
13 years. So
And we're still friends.
Yeah.
Like we were friends before this, but we've remained friends while doing the business. So it's been nice.
Did you guys start the business together?
yeah,
We actually used to have a
You
third
guys-
partner, and we got rid of him. No, he was an engineer, and he liked making more money and having a normal schedule. So he got out of this pretty quick. A couple years in, he was like, I'm going back to being an engineer. I like benefits,
I think
time
I'm
off.
going to say he had no personality. Just like, you know what? That's not going to be good for us. Forget it.
No, we're still great.
Do you guys see each other every day?
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn, and you're still friends?
And not only
I can't
see
imagine.
each other every day. Usually, it's hours a day. Just running a company.
We get a good
Yeah, that's tough. I see my wife every day for like 13 years, and sometimes that's even difficult, let alone a business partner. I'd be like, I'm out. It's over. Can't do it anymore.
We're patient.
I wanted so badly to make a I'm sick of seeing your wife every day too thing, but I thought we're not that good of friends, and that's not going to.
No, you can. It's,
I left it alone.
she doesn't listen to this, but by chance she may listen to this one. I'll tell her to.
Just listen to minute 15 and then you can shut it off. So back 13 years ago when you guys decided to start a company, the three of you guys started the company together?
Correct. It was founded with all three of us involved. This was obviously it was 2008, so we were Joe and I used to work for a production home builder here in the Kansas City area on the Kansas side, doing townhomes. What do we call them? They're not tract homes. We call them patio homes. Is what the product they were selling is basically. It was 4 or 5 plans per subdivision that clients could kind of customize, but they were, I would say, upper middle market homes for the time.
Yeah, a lot of reverse story and a halves.
What's the price point in those guys? Just to kind of give the listeners.
At the time, they would have been 5 to 7.
Yeah, 5 to 7 uptown homes were
$1 million, right?
ish.
100,000.
Yeah.
Everything's cheap here in the Midwest. Come on, man. Energy's cheap.
I didn't even know you guys had $700,000 homes out there. I'll be honest.
Oh my gosh. You weren't coming at me, bro.
And you thought it would be me.
Oh,
Tyler.
Tyler.
I didn't even know you guys had a building department. This is all news to me. I'm learning. I thought it was just like put it up wherever you want.
Yeah, let it blow away in a year
Oh,
and then rebuild it.
Nah, you got tornadoes and stuff coming through there.
I will say probably about an hour outside of the city. That's how the building codes work. You pay a permit fee, and that's the last time you'll see the inspector.
That's where I want to go.
where anything goes. That's the compliance level you're comfortable with.
Just put it right there. That looks good.
Tyler, that would drive you crazy every time you drove to work and saw the shenanigans happening around you.
Right.
You would go
Yeah.
nuts.
Like the foundation in your backyard right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good. Not good at all.
I think about that all the time when he texts me. I'm like, who else is he texting at the same time? He must have 3 of these conversations going about how
No,
frustrated
usually
he
it's
is.
people texting me and they're like, "Oh my God, what's happening?"
I didn't think you answered text, Tyler. I thought that was kind of the thing. Like, if you want to get in touch with.
No, DMs. I don't.
Oh, okay. DMs and email. Because when I reached out, I told John I would send a carrier pigeon to your job site, or maybe do like some semaphore, some smoke signals.
Yeah, email's no good. I mean, if you send an email to the Modern Craftsman, 95% chance Nick or John is 100% chance Nick or John is answering that.
Oh, I just set mine back up on my phone like last week, which
I
is
don't
why
think mine
answered you
is.
yesterday, Travis.
Mine
might
is.
be.
I usually just don't. I don't even get to my own customers' emails, let alone everyone else's. They just wait.
Well, now at the end of the podcast, when we tell everyone to email us, they're gonna be like, no.
No, they'll email you guys.
I checked the survey.
That's true. All right. Well, I want to talk about the patio homes before we talk about your business and why you left. But how long did you guys do that?
I think Travis was there 1 year more than I was, so I was there 5 years, so 6 years for Travis. Um, yeah.
Came on as
How'd you get into like working for a production builder?
well, it's two different paths. You go first, Joe.
I started out in remodeling. Just high-end remodeling. Worked for a smaller crew. There was 6 of us. We did everything in-house, besides drywall and roofs, but all our mechanicals and trim carpentry and framing. And the company eventually dissolved. And I was back in school, and Travis had started at the production builder, and we had a weekly dominoes and poker game that we did with our friends. And he kept telling me, "Hey, man, you should come here and get a job." And I thought to myself, why would I ever want to go into New Home? And
I still wonder.
Yeah, eventually I did, and it was a great experience for that time. I'm glad that it also came to an end. It taught us a lot about the front end of construction. Dealing with the cities, the civil engineers, just about taking a house from literally like staking it to getting in your landscaping and getting your your CO.
My path to the production builder was a little weird. I did a little bit of, I don't know, I guess you'd say handyman stuff after high school. In high school, I would like build sets for the drama department. And so I'd end up like building a deck in the summer or, helping out on a fence. And I had an uncle that had a hardware store. So I would work there in the summers when I was a little kid. So I kind of was like always around it. And of course, this old house, every Saturday morning, that whole thing, that I'm in that same vein with you. So anyway, after high school, I was working for a photographer. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a photographer. And there's a good buddy of ours. His dad runs a construction documentation business where this is before everyone had a phone on their camera. That's how old we are, or a camera on their phone. However you want to look at it, guys. Mike,
I got it the first time.
Big receiver on the side that I just unplugged. Anyway, so I started doing photographic documentation, and the majority of that work was for the heavy construction industry, and it was done so that developers that were in Texas could see progress on their job site in Kansas without coming to visit, and verify things were done properly before issuing checks. So we did a ton of that. We did video documentation, aerials, and that was more like CYA stuff, like, oh, they're going to build a pipeline down the street. I would do a video showing the condition of every driveway down that street so that we weren't buying anyone's driveway. So I was doing that job and really enjoying it. And it kind of, I guess you'd say it ran its course. Digital photography was coming on, and I was, like I said, I'm old. So it was the dark room for me. I was all about like the technical side. And with the advent of more and more digital stuff, you could fix everything in the computer. And I'm not really a screens and keyboard guy. I'm like a field guy. Just doesn't work for me. So I started looking after about 5 years there, and I kind of wanted to be an electrician. And at the time, a buddy of mine was working at a lighting store. He was like, "Oh yeah, talk to this electrician." And I put in my application, and then the same day, Al Faltermeyer, Faltermeyer Construction, said, "Yeah, I got your number from Ben over at the lighting showroom, and he said you were looking for work in the trades, and I wonder if you want to come help us do some remodeling." And it was just got that call before I got the call back from the electrician, and started remodeling. Really small crew. Me and Al's son Bill did everything, so I was basically Bill's helper, and we literally did everything. Like, if it was time to hang wallpaper, I was hanging wallpaper. If it was time to dig piers for the deck, I was digging piers. If it was time to build cabinets, I was building cabinets. So I learned all the trades under Bill, and he was really good. He was a good framer anyway, good at a lot of other things too. But after a few years there, my body started breaking down fast. I think my last year there, we must have laid 5,000 square feet of tile consecutively, and my knees just were shot, and I couldn't do it. It's like, I'm in my 20s and I'm done. So I kind of started poking around, and I had gotten recommended to a project manager for Tom French Construction, the production home builder we used to work for, and got on as a punch out guy there. And that's not what we were actually called. What was their official title?
Assistant superintendent.
Oh, that sounds way better. Assistant superintendent. That was the job that I got hired for. And then a year or two in, got promoted to project manager and took over a subdivision. And actually, I found it to be a very good job for me. It taught me a lot about systems and a lot about production mindset building, as far as being organized and having a schedule, running a schedule, watching your bottom line and your materials. We didn't write any of the checks at our level. That happened above our level. And we weren't even quoting work. We were just project superintendents. But it was really helpful to have that exposure to the different subs, learning how to work with a lot of different people instead of just being a self-performer, which is, my background. So after doing that for a long time, 5 years? Is that what you said?
Yeah. 6 years.
Yeah. And the economy started kind of changing. The vice president starts driving around the subdivision. Hey, boys, let me talk to you for a minute. You guys might want to start looking around. I don't think 2009 is looking too good. So it was nice. He gave us the heads up, and that's when we formed this. Actually, we'd already formed it. We were kind of pulling side work with our buddy Jason Barr, who was the third partner in Catalyst. We formed this so we could do, a deck or a basement on the side here and there, get some Christmas money together. And I think within starting our first job with Catalyst, we were 2 months before we were all full time with the company. It's a disaster. The economy just came crashing down, and we got laid off. Jason got laid off at his job while Joe and I were taking our last vacation. We were in Montana on our, using our last vacation days before we got laid off, right? Like, we know the axe is starting to swing. So we want to get those vacation days in. We went up to Montana with some buddies of ours. We got a call like the second day up there from Jason, who was at the time engineering. He's like, hey, what would you guys think about me coming on full time with the company too? Like, sure, we've got one job, let's do it. This is not a strong start, but it worked out great. We never missed a day of work since, so no complaints.
You guys were all, when you started the business, were you hands-on immediately? So you said you were building decks on the side, but you went right into being like full-time carpenters for Catalyst?
Yes. We went into, we were demo. We did everything.
Who was running the business, or was it just a mix of the three of you guys just working together, and also like, hey, I'll invoice the client tonight?
Yeah, it was definitely a mix. It was unorganized at first. I'd say for 2 years we were just kind of feeling it out and just basically solving the problem of the day.
So how did you guys afford anything, having three people a stake in the business at that point? And I feel as though with most smaller residential companies, there's not that much profit in there to split with two people, let alone three, and survive.
Maybe that's why Jason moved on.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably.
Yeah, the first few years we were making wages. Honestly, I do remember a job that when we all paid ourselves, we had like $700 left over. And so we bought a tool. And, another job, we'd buy another tool. And then we ended up doing a library for a couple. And it was 14 foot tall by 25 foot long, banking, entertainment center, rolling ladder. And our budget was pretty good. So that's when we picked up, a nice chop saw, a nice table saw, a track saw, and just started rolling that into the cost of the jobs. But that was probably year 3.
Yeah.
So it was what my old boss used to say, pork and beans for a while.
We ran lean, and we've always run lean. I think Gerstel's book, How to Run a Successful Small Construction Company, is pretty formative, talking about not having the big fancy office and not having, a staff to sweep the floor, and, basically have what you need and use what you've got, has kind of been the way that we've always run. Like, even now we're podcasting from my garage. We do not have a freestanding office or showroom or any of that. And
with a pair of crutches behind you.
Yeah, I got bad ankles, and things can go south anytime. If I go up to get my coffee right now, so I got to stay ready.
It's always a good sign. We set of crutches in the corner.
Back of their truck. I should keep my crutches across there so the clients know what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I even know starting out, being able to make enough money with one person looking to pull most of the profit out of a company, even the way that I'm structured now, for me to make what I need to make to be able to sustain the lifestyle that, my wife and I want. I would have to do more work to be able to bring somebody on to pay a higher wage. I'm almost set up better to be having a helper or work alone. That it's tough to have, multiple owners. I know a couple of smaller companies near me that do that, and they end up picking up light commercial work because there's a little bit more money for them in that to be able to kind of disperse between the multiple owners. I would assume, especially, starting out doing smaller jobs, like that's the type of work where you do alone and you're still struggling, let alone with 3 people.
I don't know. I think we make a really comfortable living. I mean, I make more. Joe and I used to joke around that we were always out earning most of our friends who finished college and got good jobs, good quote unquote jobs. I think maybe some of those folks have surpassed us since.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
But as far as like those 8 to 10 years out of school where, people are still trying to find their way and work their way up in their company. I mean, we were off to the races. We've always done well. Financially, I don't know. Does it matter, to be frank? We're 6-figure earners. Each of us take care of our families. Joe's got 3 kids at home. I've got 2. Our wives both work, but I would say that we live a comfortable life. Things are less expensive in the Midwest in terms of operating expenses. And
do you guys have Amazon there or no?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, man, we have everything here. It's like a normal city.
We have an Amazon hub, so most of our stuff gets here in like 2 days.
Yeah.
I haven't seen. We have aluminum crutches around here, though. Those appear to still be wood.
I'm a carpenter, man. I'm not a welder. Get out of here with that business.
No, but it's important to know, even to say, to keep, that's how I can make money in business, by keeping my overhead low and remaining modest, and not having a ton of vehicles, a ton of overhead, a secondary shop, an office, and all that. You're able to kind of sustain, a moderate level of work and not have to kill yourself and still make decent money doing it. I think a lot of people end up growing, and then, hey, we have 3 owners or 2 owners right now, and we're going to hire more people, and we're going to get everyone a van, and then we're going to get a separate office to sell jobs and get a salesman. And it's like, before you know it, you're just how much work throughout the year are you taking just to break even?
Yeah, we see that a lot here. You'll see a company and they kind of just have a very quick rise, and you follow them on Instagram. They're like, oh, we just built our shop, and then I'll be driving down the street and I'll see an office for them for their decorator side. And there's a handful that have sustained it, but there's more than that I'd say it's a 2-year run. They can't keep it going.
It's just a different business model. I think there's a lot of successful builders in our area that are our size and bigger. And there's a lot of, guys working out of the back of their truck too. But I think we're established now as a successful new home builder and remodeling firm that competes with other similar sized. I don't know. We're going to build 5 houses this year, and the largest will probably be 1 point.
Well, the one we're going to finish up this year is 1.6. We have another one that's 1.2. It'll probably be 1.3 plus when it's done. And then one similar to that, but we're still in the design phase.
These are all custom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't spec. I don't know if we'd ever build one that we'd probably end up blowing our budget out because we're attention to detail guys, and we put way too much insulation in there and spend way too much on the shell. And
all of our opportunities in the last few years for building new home have come much more from our high performance focus than anything else. there are a lot of guys that can probably build as nice as cabinet wise, finishes wise, but we've made our mark in terms of detailing and attention to detail on particularly high performance details, low leakage, high R value assemblies, extreme durability. That's the stuff that people are calling us for now. So we're pretty thrilled about that because that's kind of where our passions lie. But for a long time, most of our stuff was, I would say most of our clients were calling us because we answer the phone and because we can run a shop vac and a broom. I mean, we're selling trust more than skill for the longest time, even though the skill has always been there. I think it sounds really smug to say that, but there are very few projects that we've been on where I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have done as good as that guy. Like most of the time, we were the guys that were doing that last 20% to make it look the way it needed to look.
Mm-hmm.
So the skill's always been there, but that's not, unfortunately, been, I think, why most people have sought us out for the longest time. It was because we were trustworthy.
I don't know if there's anything unfortunate about that though. I think that so much, if you take yourself out of what we do, and is it say say I need to bring my car somewhere, I would rather trust that person. Maybe they're not necessarily the best mechanic in the world, the best technician in the world, but if I trust them, they have my best interest in mind. They're going to try things, and not just throw parts at my car. A lot of times I would hire that person versus somebody who's just amazing. That it's going to be whatever they put in the car, whatever's best, and it may take longer. I think that trust in our industry is so important, and it's so difficult to find trustworthy contractors that I don't know if that's an unfortunate thing. I know that, even for myself, like you said, you can pick up a broom, you can pick up a shop vac, you show up on time. That's unfortunately, that's saying a lot for contractors these days because that's not always the case.
Yeah, it's the low bar to clear. That's what I feel is unfortunate about it, is because Joe and I've spent a ton of time and money to get to where we are in terms of our abilities. We're licensed in all the trades. So Joe's a master plumber. He carries our general contractor's license and the master plumber license. I carry the master mechanical and the master electricians. And that was not an easy feat for us to achieve, nor is it inexpensive. So I very much want our clients to understand that they're not hiring somebody who just runs a business, but they're hiring people who are technically adept at the tasks. And even when we're not self-performing and we're overseeing other people's work, there's not much that gets by us. And that's what I want to be our value to the client. I would like for every builder to answer their phone. I would like for everyone to show up on time, plus or minus 5 minutes or 20, Johnny. I'm just saying, it seems to me that we're past that point where we talk about auto mechanics as grease monkeys and we talk about builders as anything less than craftsmen when they've earned that title. For sure, there's guys out here that don't have any business calling themselves a craftsman or frankly calling themselves a builder. But I think that the people who have earned that right to take pride in being an artisan or a technician or someone who's on that level that can perform the work without much error and deliver the product that they've agreed to, that person deserves the level of recognition and respect that's consistent with that effort and knowledge. And I think it's really important that we start kind of demanding that level of respect because that's going to help people get into this. No one wants to be looked down on. Nobody wants to aspire to a low bar. So Joe and I are really active in trying to keep craft alive. We have a lot to talk about on that front, but I don't want to get way ahead. I think it's really important that we set that bar a lot higher for our fellow tradesmen and women and show them the respect that they're deserving, and then let the clients see that that's the respect level that they deserve. And that elevates us all.
You talked about the things that you learned working for the production builder as, assistant supers. And I think, Joe, you said like on the front of construction, permitting and dealing with all that stuff. And you left that to get into the back to like more of a carpentry, building decks, smaller projects. You weren't overseeing these production homes. And I relate that to, I had worked for a developer. They had done primarily garden style apartments around the whole country, but I was working on their high rise team, and I was assistant super and then an assistant PM. But I had left and started a company by myself to get back into the carpentry side. And I think, I'm thinking as you're talking about it, like I can relate to it, where it's like, I did really value working for that company. We were, the project I was on, it was like $100-something million. And I'm looking at contracts that have more zeros than I've ever seen. And it's like, and I'm negotiating like change orders that are, $1 million. And it was really interesting. And I feel like there was a lot that I learned from there, more so than I think I learned in school. But I was trying to scratch the itch of, I would hop in and do, random punch list stuff. Because I was trying to scratch this itch of, as you say, craftsmanship. And, going into my own business as a carpenter, I started as a carpentry company, and now growing into a, remodeling company and building company and so on and so forth. And it seems like it's a similar path for you guys. But my question, I guess Joe and Travis, like, what real specifically did you appreciate about working for that production builder?
In hindsight, it's the organization,
Mm.
practice of, we were the youngest superintendents in the company, so had a very watchful eye. We were, turning our schedule to our boss every week, and not just what you wrote down. Like, you had to have it completed, called in, everything done. And that translates, even though, 5 years we talk about the schedule because we were the ones performing the work. But now, as the company's evolved, I find myself, kind of going back to those skills of, okay, and especially with shipping delays and stuff now, we're scheduling jobs. I have to schedule my hardwood 6 weeks out in advance just so I can get them ordered. And so now it's planning the jobs out, and being custom. They're even more complicated and there's more moving parts. And so, in hindsight, I really like the organizational skills we learned.
Yeah, the systems that they had in place were next level compared to certainly what I was used to. I mean, I was coming from show up in the morning and, oh, this is what we're doing next. Okay. Getting laid out that day to, okay, we haven't broken ground yet, but in 4 months, we're turning this house over.
Mm-hmm.
Dirt to doorknob. It's got to be delivered on this day or we don't get our money because now we're in breach of contract. That's a level of operating without a net that I had not previously experienced. Construction. I guess with the photography stuff, it was old school. Like, if you miss the shot, there's no retake. Like, that job site keeps moving if you missed it. So I guess I had a little bit of that, but it was never the stakes that high before. Joe and I would have a closing, and there was never a discussion about like, well, if you need a couple extra days, just let us know and we can push that closing back. Never. Like, I remember one winter, these are 12-12 pitch roofs, and we needed to get painted. We needed to get stucco painted on the exterior so that we could close on time. And I remember being out on the subdivision on a Saturday because we had gotten snow the day before, and I knew it wouldn't be dry enough to paint Monday if the roof was melting off. So I was on the roof shoveling snow off the roof so that when the sun came up on Sunday, there wouldn't be any meltwater dripping down, wetting the stucco, so we could make that closing. And the boss didn't come out on a Saturday and tell me. Like, the vice president didn't call me Thursday night and be like, hey, don't forget if it snows on Saturday. None of that. It was just, the stakes are this high. You will meet the standard. There was never a discussion about alternatives. There was never a plan B for failure. It was just, the house closes on this day, your walkthrough's this day, and you better be ready. And that was something that I think was really important and informative for me, because we've kind of, I mean, you can't do it now because of the damn pandemic. We can't get material and labor like Joe was saying, waiting 6 weeks on something that used to be 10 days. There's everything's a moving target. But before that, we were really pretty much always delivering exactly what we planned, and there was never a plan B. It was just, you do this right, and that's it. That's a huge value. Plus, I didn't have any exposure to big construction. Like, I had remodeling exposure, but I didn't understand site development. I didn't have a SWIP plan for my my remodel projects. My stormwater protection plan was new to running a subdivision. That wasn't something I was used to dealing with the EPA as a custom cabinet builder and home remodeler. That doesn't come up. So that stuff was really helpful. And navigating the permit process isn't something on a large scale that I was familiar with prior to that. So those were all really good, formative, systems-based things.
It's funny, and I think looking back, I remember now. I would agree with you. All the systems are what I really appreciated, but I was the same way for the first 2 years. I just started a company, and I had no organization, and and then fast forward. I think we're 8 years now, and it's like we're the more systems we put in place, the more I look at it, and I'm like, that's exactly what I learned to do 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And it's like, and I ignored the fact that, because in one mindset, it was my job. Like, it was a job, it was set up. And, I think my point is like, when you do work for other parts of the industry, or even other industries, it's really important to take what was done well there, like in that job, and how do you attribute that to starting your own company? What systems did they have in place to measure something that kept them successful?
Yeah, I think it was the constant monitoring, like the relentless pursuit of getting the house done on time. Keeping your paint to 7 days instead of letting it slip to 9. Being smart about scheduling your drywall so your dry time happened over the weekend. Just really simple scheduling things. But a lot of it was just basic company organizational stuff that we probably wouldn't have otherwise been exposed to. I mean, I remember shortly after we got laid off, that company, they hired us back to trim out a house, because it was a slow death. Like, we didn't go from 100 miles an hour to zero. It was like, okay, we're closing 80 houses a year, to, well, we're probably only going to close 25 or 30 in your subdivision, to, hey, we bought some houses from people that wanted to buy our houses so that we could sell and close. So we need you to flip those houses. So for a while, Joe and I were remodeling homes in nicer areas of Leawood, Northland Park, local areas here that, these were nice houses, but they weren't ready to sell. So the owner of our company was buying out the existing owner so that they would go ahead and write the contract and purchase their new home from him. And then Joe and I were in there, redoing plumbing in an entire house, and go ahead and retrim, just update the whole kitchen, all that stuff.
Taking out load-bearing walls, just doing everything.
So that remodeling transition for that company, that slowdown, it kind of exposed the owner of the company to, oh, these guys are actually extremely skilled tradesmen. So when they laid us off, they actually brought us back on several jobs just as independent contractors. And one of them was one of the first ones was to trim out basically metal spindles, put hardware on, like just finish out the house. And I remember we did it for way too little money. I think it was like $700 or something.
Yeah.
It was just dirt. And he was going to write us a check, and he's like, well, we can break this up however you want. And we've got some other final business to close out with you from your time here, your phones, your laptops, and all that stuff. And I want to say we traded him. We didn't bill that job, and instead we took the laptop because we needed a computer to run the company out of. Yes. So we needed the spreadsheets and all the scheduling software and all that. So, it's just one of those things that you don't appreciate those systems as much when you're in them and using them as you do in retrospect. And you're like, oh my God, if I didn't have this system in place to manage all this, I would just make no progress. It would all be lost.
That's scrappy. Like,
Yes.
you guys are scrappy for that, It's like, leveraging, like, you're leveraging a lot. Was it just at this time it was 3 of you guys, but was there everyone's, partial owner in some sense? Did you have any other employees at this time?
No.
Yeah.
Everything's
So,
self-performed.
yeah, so and which, if you had employees like not taking that, not getting paid and taking the laptop, like, your employees like, dude, I don't need a laptop. Like, you need to pay me.
No, it was one of those deals where I think it was only a day for us to trim that. So we were just trading.
No, I know, but my point is like, you guys are, oftentimes it's not a partnership.
Right.
Most businesses aren't a partnership, I guess is what I'm getting at. And it's like, but you guys had this, you guys all just went into it together, obviously like-minded and scrappy. And would you say his name was Adam?
It was Jason, was the third partner, Jason Barr.
Jason.
Great.
So Jason, he chose to choose a more structured career, which is great for him. And you guys decided to, kind of comb through it, and obviously have made a great living for yourselves. Why, when you guys started the business, what made you decide to create a partnership? Like, did you guys just all want ownership? Was it a sit down and, eat dominoes and play poker and decide that you guys this is gonna be a structured partnership, or was it just super casual?
Well, Travis, it was really his idea, and he kept saying, "Hey, let's start a side business." And he probably was asking me about it for 6 months, maybe, and we'd talk about it, but nothing ever would really, come to fruition. And then he asked Jason, I think he was his workout buddy, and we went to a sandwich shop and started talking about it, basically. And 10 hours of meetings later, we formed a company, all equal partners. But it was really, at that time, it was almost a romantic idea of, hey, we'll have this company, we can moonlight 2 or 3 jobs a year. And then when the legs fell out of the economy, it just, we went full bore right into full-time work with Catalyst. And honestly, some of the first jobs were painting. We painted a house. We did a bunch of wood rot replacement. I mean, we just didn't say no. If they were willing to hire us for what we thought was a fair price, we would do the job. And we had that for years.
Right. How long?
Until you started turning down jobs?
Well, how long until you went from taking on anything to being a structured, established builder that has created a niche in their market?
Boy, that's a great question. I would guess I almost want the newlywed game like barrier, because I want to know what Joe's going to say. I don't want him to hear what I'm going to say.
Put your hands up and you guys do the fingers.
I think it's only been about the last 5 years that we have said.
You can't say it and hide the fingers. That just ruined the whole game. It's like 5.
I'm not good at games. I'm sorry. I think it's been the last 5 years that we have been selective in our work and actually told people, that's not really a project that fits our company's goals. It's just always been, I guess I feel really deeply a responsibility. And I think this is our company's ethos. We feel a deep responsibility to help people. And we have a lot of homes in our area that need work. And so if a little old lady needs a laundry room and she calls us, I'm not going to tell her that we don't just do laundry rooms. I mean, we don't. That's not what we want to do. We're not excited about that. But we had a past client who had us out last week to bid her laundry room. Yeah. And we're not going to say no, because that's what she needs. That house needs that to be whole. Unfortunately, we also have to tell her it's probably going to be 14 months. And this is fill-in work for us now. And you're just not going to get a lot of lead time. We're going to call you with, hey, something fell out and I can fit in your laundry room. And so that's kind of the happy medium. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying we won't help you. I'm not saying we're
Sure.
too good to do that work anymore, because we're not. We're no better than any other tradesman, and that client that's the service that they need. So we have a responsibility to do what the client wants. But in terms of where we're trying to get as a company, that doesn't fit in with our goals. That's very much more about keeping our guys busy, because we do have a couple guys that work for us now, and also providing that service and basically meeting that commitment to our community.
I think it's about, I mean, we don't want to say ever bite the hand that feeds. We want to have a large net. So we do get a fair amount of inquiries about remodeling. So we'll always entertain them. Sometimes it doesn't work for a price or time frame, but we take those meetings and we don't, we spend time there. Usually our average bid, just initial meetings, over an hour, and even for a laundry room or something. So it's important to us to not tell all our past remodeling clients, hey, we just don't do this anymore, because we still want our name out there. The new home market could fall through, or it could slow up, and if you're going to transition strictly to new home, you have to do a fair amount of volume, so you have the profits to support two owners. But so I do think there's value in being a diverse company, as far as on the residential side.
It's just all.
Go ahead.
It's also tough, if you guys are pushing for performance-driven homes. When you get into remodeling, it's not as easy to implement, what you are structuring your new builds around when you get into remodel. So it's almost like we perform at this level when we do new builds, but then we have to kind of go this route when we do remodels, and you're almost kind of further spanning that gap between the two parts of the company.
That's very true. We've always said that on our remodel, it's a victory if they let us air seal the rim joist. This is the market here. We don't do a lot of slab homes. Actually, we don't do any slab homes, but most of the homes that we work in are 70 to 100 years old on the remodel side. Is that right?
I'd say
maybe 50 to 100. It's a wide margin.
Yeah.
This house was built in 55. We work a lot in this neighborhood. So 70 years ago, all these homes just have nice leaky assemblies. And so if we're into a house to remodel any aspect of it, the work that we do, we want it to, remain vapor open, so we're not creating a new problem. But if we air seal it and keep it performing, so that as they remodel the rest of the house, they can tie into our envelope, and hopefully they're working with us on it. We can move around the whole house, and one day that house is whole. The details are continuous eventually.
Going back to what you were talking about with renovating and it not fitting into your grand scheme of things, I think it's a lot, it's similar to a contract where it's like you have really hard language in your contract, but there's a human side of you where it's like, well, my contract says I won't repair baseboard that, shrinks over time. But the human side of you, like, no, I'll come over and do it. And I think that it's the same thing from a marketing perspective, is that, you guys can put all of your effort into marketing to building new homes that are airtight and et cetera, et cetera. But, that old lady calls for a laundry room because she loved working with you, and you had worked for 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's like, that's not what you do. But the human inside of you says, but we can.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't. And, the other thing I wanted to ask is that, you said it's been probably about 5 years since you've really decided to like hone in on who you guys are and what you guys are doing. Do you think that social media has played a role in that?
I'd definitely say in the last 2 years. And that's
now I'm going to pause you for a second. There's two thoughts here. One being that social media has changed it because it's allowed you to target particular clients in the last 2 years. But I wonder about 5 years ago, were you just, not active on social media, but you were consuming it, realizing that, holy shit, there's a whole group of this industry that is pushing to do better work, and then slowly has kind of gravitated you towards honing in on your focus. Because that's what that's what I've really taken away from the last 5-7 years of social media, is that I'm just consuming and realizing that I'm consuming and then modifying my business according to what I'm consuming, which ultimately is building what I want, and taking the bits and pieces of how other people are doing it in order for me to get there in the fastest, or I don't want to say easiest, but because it's certainly not easy, but the fastest path possible.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I feel like the exposure to Instagram has been extremely beneficial and probably has supported our growth. More importantly, I think, and I don't remember looking into social media specifically. Like, we avoided Facebook. I think we might still have an active Facebook page that Joe's sister ran for us for a while, but we really haven't done much in the way of social media promotion until, I think, Instagram over the past few years. And that's mostly a function of, again, feeling a responsibility to share. Because, yeah, I was consuming it too. I was like, Steve Basic will just give me his details. He'll just show me what he's doing. Well, that's an easy level up. To me, it was like a library card, but much more convenient. So that, I think, is what, that was the shift for us. I feel like, again, a responsibility. Like, if you get this information handed to you, then you kind of owe it to share your result, because it can help someone else. So I know I've certainly learned a lot from you guys with your individual feeds. I don't think that we're ever going to run as large an operation as Nick is running, or build homes as big as Johnny, or I know I'll never paint anything with the level of attention to prep that Tyler puts in. But I get a little piece of each one every time we log in and see that stuff. I think you guys are sharing inspiration, and I think we owe it to people to make that accessible, whether it's victories or failures. You know, we posted some stuff that we tried that didn't work, and we posted some stuff that would not be portfolio projects. But I think we post that stuff because the people that we've learned from have shared that in the past, and that helped us get to where we are. So in the original Instagram times, it was kind of just fun, and it was access, and then it was learning. But it very rapidly became like, oh, okay, I can't just consume. I have to share. And it has to be, and I'll admit, I'm really bad at this. And that's why you'll see things kind of come in waves. Like, I hit a stride every once in a while and be like, okay, I get what I need to do here to share. How can this help? What is this going to be useful? Who is this useful to? And I'll have kind of a hot streak of, oh, there's 5 posts in 5 days. Way to go, Catalyst. And then there'll be a 2-week dry spell where I'm like, I don't see how I can express what I'm working on in a positive way. Like, I'm frustrated right now. We have all these projects that are behind, and they're behind because of forces beyond our control. And historically, we have always been able to manage that by just working harder. I'll put in more hours. I'll come in on the weekend. I'll stay late. But we've got young kids now. That's not really an option. There's too many projects. Like, if it was 1 or 2, I'll catch it up over the weekend. We're in quicksand, man. So that disheartening moment of, all I can share is frustration. I don't want to put that out there. That's not going to help anyone. I can complain about it for 2 seconds and be like, yeah, you all are not alone. Like, I sent Johnny a text after he was 188, where he was kind of expressing some frustration with someone that he had to let go and the way that things were going for him. I was like, man, you are in good company. You're singing my song. It's exactly what I feel. And I'm sure he got 700 messages just like that through his DMs and everywhere else. But I guess if I post that we're having a hard time, everyone in my market's like, yeah, no shit, man. So that's not particularly helpful to anyone, I don't think. And I think it can come off, because a lot of our clients are friends. You know, we don't do a good job of keeping that boundary. Our clients are very rapidly like in our lives, and then we're friendly. And in fact, we used to do an annual customer appreciation barbecue where we would have everyone out, all of our clients for the year, all of our subs would come out, and, all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, I got 500 families. Like this is too many people to keep track of. And if I let them all in and let them see how frustrating things are, now it's a burden to them. Like I don't want to come off like I'm bitching. I mean, I got a great life. My family's all healthy. It couldn't be better.
Yeah,
but
to that point, they want you to be the rock. They want you to be the level-headed, even-keeled, someone that they can always kind of turn to. And if you're going to be emotionally, a train wreck, then they're not gonna turn to you because they already know what they're going to get, and they can be that person. So you're not a value to them, and it's really tough that you hit a nerve with that where it's like I waited like 8 months for a set of windows to come in for one of my jobs, and it's kind of holding up the plaster and everything else in that area. And you get them, and you're like, I take all the videos, and there's 8 of us have to put this unit in, and it's awesome. And I'm like, but I can't post that because I'm waiting for these other windows for another job. And it's like if I post it, I know I'm going to create this kind of awkwardness with this other client, and I don't want any of it. It's already hard enough that I don't need to add anything to my plate. So you know what? I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, and if I don't need to be on social, if people want to get a hold of me, they can DM me. But besides that, until everything, I've said to everybody, until everything starts to line up across all our jobs, then I'm not going to. There's just no need for me. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, you feel like you're letting one client down, or celebrating the victory on one job is not something you can share with everyone because the other client's like, well, what about mine? Yeah. What happened to mine? How come that's priority? Where's my stuff? And where's my?
Yeah, I still want to I took a picture. I shouldn't say I wanted to. I took a picture of one of our jobs, and it's like everything's done: cedar roof, siding, and then there's just this huge, massive plastic covering this area. And I posted it. I wanted to post it and be like, this is what jobs look like now. They never did before. It was always like, all the windows come. Dude, I was sending trucks to go get windows last week to Pella. They're like, oh, we got all your windows in. I'm like, I'll come get them. So I rent the truck, get it. This is how crazy it is. On your way there, they call my guy and go, hey, we actually only have 2 windows. So I didn't need to rent a truck. I didn't need to do any of that. So like literally when clients say, like, how do you not know what's going on? It's like, dude, like it was an hour and a half drive. So within an hour and a half,
right,
sending a box truck could have been a pickup truck that he drives anyways for the company. And then it's just like, it's just a strange thing. And then like Monday rolls around and, on that Thursday of last week, we're like, we'll get them. We'll pop them right in. So it's 2 windows. We carpenters there. So then Monday rolls around. We don't know when the truck's coming. So we don't have carpenters lined up because it's raining, everything else. And the client's like, I thought they were going right in. And you're like, all right, how do I reset some sort of expectation right now? Because this is stupid. Like it makes you sit back at my desk and go, deep breath. How do we find the forward in this situation? Not be like, no, that I told you that last week. Because then you're going to create an argument. I'm like, we will still get them in. I know rain looks like it's 80% tomorrow, but we'll hammer them all out. And I got off the call here with you guys for a minute because my super was calling. And I'm like, tell me they're all in. And he's like, we got 2 left. I'm like, all right, it's 4:00. Get her done. I'll swing by at the end of the day and make sure we're good. But it's like almost all of our jobs at one point had, like, we literally had like having to talk the cider into siding from the corner to the window and wait till the windows come because I want to get as much done as possible is like pulling teeth because it's another mobilization. But you're trying to be an advocate for the client, the schedule, everything that when they do come, now we're just feathering in instead of starting from scratch. And now I have coverage on the whole house and we're making attempts to go forward. But I don't know if clients realize how much effort that truly is because everyone's so busy. They can just go to the easier job.
Yeah.
And it's what every single sub's going to say to me. Like when we have more complicated jobs, I can imagine what Nick's doing, but either the price point has to be a silver dollar or they're going to be like, I could go form 2 foundations with that crap. Like I'm running into that everywhere. It's like, I'm going to strip that whole house that's historic. Then I'm going to house wrap it with the gray stuff. And they're like, well, I can just run siding somewhere.
Right.
Like I can get 10 squares done in a day. We're here. I'm going to have to strip it, do all this, get 5 squares. And you're still trying to be an advocate for budget. So it's really I don't know, it's such a burden. And I'm trying to look at the silver lining here and be like, this is what our industry is. So get used to it right now. And I wish I didn't know what it was before.
Yes.
Get me, like, I wish I entered it 2 years
Right
ago.
now,
Or like, like it was like, oh, so this is it. I get it. Because then knowing like it's going to change to the better in like 5 years would be such a great thing. But for me, I'm like, this sucks right now.
Comparison is the thief of joy. That's the bitch of it. You lived in a time, we all did. We operated in a time where it was easy to get material, labor was plentiful, quality was available, and money was cheap, lending, all those things. The new market is very unpleasant to navigate, and the frustration that you're feeling is exactly what we're dealing with. And I'm not sharing it on social media, but I have had face-to-face with clients where I'm like, just so we're clear, we are losing lots of money because this is taking so long. Like, we have our projects set up. Go ahead.
You bring up a good point, like the money part.
Yeah.
Like,
if it takes longer and we're not making any more money, that's the same as giving us a pay cut. If you were an hourly employee and you were making $35 an hour and, you were going to get paid to come in every day, that's one thing. But if you have a fixed price contract and your 8-month duration becomes 14, that's a pretty hard nut. And so we've been explaining that stuff to clients and trying to make it clear. And, we just do the best that we can. Like you, try and move the project forward. Do everything that you can. What is available to do? And that's our company model forever, has always been, look, if we're going to subcontract labor, we know that they're going to get us between 70 and 90% there with their task. They're never going to hit 100% of our standard. They're just not. They're going to get close, but we're always going to have a little bit of, we had to clean up after them, or they didn't quite get that the way I wanted it. And even with us communicating, this is as far as they're going to take it. We'll get the last. And that's what we've planned for. That's what we priced. So it's been fine, but not in this economy, because we can't be in 60 places at once, and we can't wrap up 7 jobs at one time for that last 20%. So now we feel like we're not doing as good of a job for our client. We're certainly not doing as good a job for our families, because we're not home as much as we should be. I should be playing catch in the backyard with my son. I shouldn't be sweeping out a job because my drywall guy didn't send a sanding or a sweep crew on a Friday night. I should be playing catch. It's how it is right now. And you got to keep doing your best for your client, because that's your responsibility. But you can't forget that the client isn't the only responsibility.
Well, and to your point.
Now, my question to you guys is like to bring up money and to say, hey, I'm losing money. I'm psycho. So, I could be totally wrong here, but like, I don't love saying that to people. So there's a couple things I stay away from. I got rules. Like, when you walk in the house and someone says, leave your shoes on, they always come off. Okay. No matter what, no matter how clean or how dirty the house is, always comes off. I never park in the driveway because I don't know who's coming and going to this emergency. They got to pick somebody up. So then no one parks in the driveway.
Yeah.
Like, no contractors, nothing. There's like little rules I have. Like, you never use their vacuum, even though it's available. Like, there's like things like this that you do, but like there's points in time where if I have to leave to be at my son's game, I've said this before, I don't bring that part up. You get me? Like, it's just an appointment I have to get to, because if I go, hey, I want to have this kind of camaraderie that we're both parents, we're both in this together. I understand where they're coming from. At the same token, I feel like if I say that I'm making time for my family and I know how busy their schedule is, they might feel is that like, hey, he's making time for his family. The way he said it means that I don't take enough time for my family, that I'm here all the time, blah. You get me? So I'm looking at like through these crazy lenses. I get it. But at the same point, like, if I make it about money, like, I want it to be about the pride, the execution, the craftsmanship, the details. I want you to see how much I make happen in a day, so you never question management. I want you to see the details. I'm not going to point them out. I'll let you ask questions, and we'll navigate, like, we'll Sharpie the chevron and how the border goes. That's not me going, hey, today we're going over nothing but details. So get your detail hat on, okay? Let's go. It's more of like, this is what we're doing, and I'm on my hands and knees. I'm in this with you. So how do you say that without saying it is my point. Like, You know, like I feel like that's everything I do is how do I say this in a way? Like I had this conversation, one quick story. Like you want to keep things on track and always moving forward. I know Nick does his debriefs and tries to solve things and you kind of go backwards a little, but like how do you keep the things moving forward and you kind of keep it? What's up? I thought I saw you put
Me?
your hand. No.
I
Joe.
was wiping my eye.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Nick?
And you're up. No, I feel like there's so much psychiatry, it's like psychology that goes into this. And maybe it's just me and I overthink everything. But like, I don't want to be like, hey, I'm losing money here because now it's about money. And then if you say to them, hey, you know, I'm losing money, then they might look at management more. Like, hey, how often is he here? Is he here, you know, 3 times a day? Is he here once a day?
I would say, when we've had to use that conversation with the homeowner, that's usually an extreme case. This is, you know, for one example, one of our houses, we had a massive window delay. We hit weather. We hit a lot of homeowner delays. But then, you know, we always say they forget about all their delays. And then at the end, they're like, why isn't this happening? Why aren't we working faster? And for 90% of those conversations, we never bring up money. But when, you know, we've had the 4th go around about the exterior, you know, walls and driveway and what we're doing, and they've never made a decision. And then they finally make their decision and they're like, well, why isn't this happening tomorrow? That's kind of when we have to, that extreme cases, that's why we'll bring it up. Most jobs, you know, we like win, lose, or draw, we're providing our standard. It's our details, our commitment to quality, our commitment to customer service. Those are just basically part of our package.
I think it's, I don't bring it up flippantly with the client. I do it under the pressure of, hey, they're disappointed with the schedule. I like to remind them that we're in this together.
Yeah.
We're feeling the same pain. They're disappointed they're not in their house for Thanksgiving. I'm disappointed too. I've been working really hard to get it there. But when they start complaining about the cost of lumber going up and the cost of, oh my gosh, the labor is high and everything is more and more and more, I go, that's very true. I also don't have extra money. I'm also losing in this. So it's more of a camaraderie than and I don't know, and maybe that's wrong. That's just the way that I've always felt is so much of our.
I just wanted to ask you guys how you take it.
Yeah. Johnny, I will say I really like that you don't let your trades park in the driveway, your guys. You don't use their customer shop backs. These are all things that we've been preaching for years. We even make everyone park on the same side of the street so we don't create a crack.
100%. Don't park in front of the driveway so someone else can back out. You try and
be a good neighbor.
Think about the other people. Yeah, 100%. And just trying to, but we say that and the people are going to be like, it's cool. Go try it. Go try and get everyone to park on one side of the street. And we always blame it for Wellesley because it's all the soccer moms driving SUVs that have no right driving SUVs. So like if there's one car on one side, they can't get by.
Yeah.
It's like pull your mirrors in and it's like a garbage truck coming through. So it's a little extreme where we are, but at the same token, you try and organize it. Then you'll have that other company that's across the street and they'll park on the opposite side. And it's like, all right, I got 14 trucks on one side. Can you adopt what you already see, you moron? And then I got to go walk over and manage that project too. And it's just tough to, and again, this is all things that will never get celebrated besides on this podcast because everyone else that drives by will just take it for granted and probably, raise an eyebrow and be like, God, I got to go buy these construction trucks today.
Yep.
And be annoyed by it. So it's really what we try and do to so that way I feel like I'm not a target.
Yeah.
Everything's so I'm not a target so if I walk through that house with my boots on and they said it's okay. And then tonight when they walk through the house and they go, where are these footprints from? It's Johnny and his boots, and then I got a client meeting the next day. Now she could be fired up about that, even though she allowed me to go in. It's, I don't know. Maybe I've been doing it too long where I just feel like there's always the opposite side where I get my ass kicked.
No, I like those rules. I just, I'm always like self-examination. Where's the line? What's the right thing? What's the best thing? What do we owe to them? And there was a moment, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, where we had a potential client, hadn't hired us yet, wasn't adversarial, but in an email exchange was like, I want you to come and bid this work. Here's the plan. I'd like to meet with you on this date. And we're like, well, that, I understand that would be nice. And we're looking forward to meeting with you, but we don't do Saturday meetings. We've got young families, and that's not part of our business model. We're business people and we work business hours. So if you want to meet with us, we'd be happy to come meet you over your lunch break, or we can come at 4:30. Just reasonable stuff like that. And this person became extremely nasty. And after like 2 or 3 exchanges back and forth trying to find a time, she finally sends me this email that says, the meeting is at, I don't remember what it was. It was like 7 p.m. No, it was evening. It was an evening meeting. She was like, the meeting is at 7 p.m. with my designer on the site at such and such address. I will see you there. And I just replied, absolutely not. And that was the last time we spoke. And I felt really unprofessional about it for a while. But in retrospect, that was like the turning point. That was the day that we were like, oh, okay, there's no reason to work for that client. They don't respect us enough to treat us as good as the cable guy or their dentist. So that's not our client. And I kind of, if you want to say I let my my work ethic slip, or my standards slip, or whatever, I was unprofessional. However you want to characterize that, I'll own that, because that was important for us. That it's more important for us to be good dads, to be home with our families when we're supposed to be home, than to.
So that's a great point. But don't you think that it elevates to a point where, like, you're almost saying that she's not taking time for her family? You get me? How you added that in?
Yeah,
and then it happens, and then it could escalate over something that could never happen. And I think it happens very easily. It's just like, hey, I mean, to me, I've looked at it like, I've got some amazing clients, and they all work as hard as I do during the week to make ends meet. And I get it. And they're scrambling to get to their kid stuff and to, their wives for dinner, for anniversary, whatever it is. So if it means a Saturday morning to meet the client to go over like a water issue in the basement that we dug the hole and there's a little bit of water, I'll shoot over there. My wife, I'll go, hey, when do we have soccer? When do we have hockey? What's the plan? So I don't compromise that family time. Mm-hmm. But the same token, I want to be equal with that client. You know what I'm saying? Like, I totally get what you're saying, guys. And I commit to everything. I watch my kids' soccer every weekend, every practice I try and get to, and I coach my kids' hockey. So I'm not giving that up. But at the same token, I don't like, I want to be equal to them. Yeah. That makes sense?
I'm not calling you out as a dad, and I'm not calling out my client as a good parent either. I'm telling you, this is what works for me. And this person wasn't my client yet. And I could tell at that moment that I was not going to want to work with this person, because they were never going to give us the level of respect that we've earned. Yeah. And if you don't respect my time and the schedule parameters that I was clear about, then it's going to be hard for us to get through a long relationship of a remodel where it's always I'm going to tell you what to do. Like, well, that works on the plan. If you want to tell me what to do, because you're the client, sure, I work for you. What it doesn't work for is we're the experts on the building side. So I want your input on your aesthetic preferences. I want your input on schedule. I want your input on, how you would like to communicate. I want all those things. What I don't appreciate input on, this is how you'll spend your personal time, because you don't get to have input on that. We need to have mutual respect. I'm not going to tell you, hey, the best time to talk to me is at 4:30 in the morning. That's when I get up and it's quiet. That's a good time for me to have phone calls. That's the time you'll call me.
I feel like that's you've already escalated to fucking 11 at that point. Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a point in time where it's at 3 and we could all come to an agreement at level 3 and it's cool. Like, maybe you bring dunks on Saturday morning and you're out of there in a half hour and everyone goes back to their lives, and they are a controlling person because that's how they've made their money and that's what's made them successful. Yeah. And I accept that challenge a lot of the time. Sure. I got some really kooky clients at the same moment as that they're great. Like,
yeah, Travis's
one calls me every morning and calls me every night at 7:30. It's like clockwork.
Yeah,
And some days I answer, some days I don't.
if it's an existing client, we're there for them, and that includes weekends. I mean, for years we were doing second and third story additions, and I can't tell you how many nights we were out there managing tarps during rainstorms. Or if there's a electrical issue, a plumbing issue, we're out there regardless of what day or time.
Every young carpenter needs to have that in their repertoire. They should be out there at 7:30 when it's crazy wind and rain, and people are living downstairs. You're not allowed to own a business until you've done it.
Yeah, try midnight during like a winter storm. But it's more of a qualification on the front end if we feel that the homeowner doesn't value our opinion enough to take a daytime meeting. And we're really flexible. I mean, we give them a month in advance to schedule it if they want. But yeah, if they're dead set it has to be at 7:30, usually that's an indicator off past clients that might not be the best fit for Catalyst.
Yeah, I don't I know I'm different than you, John, as well. You're very cognizant of what, I think that sometimes to a fault that you think you almost plan your actions and inactions based on how they may be perceived by your customers, which I don't think it's a terrible thing to do. Oftentimes I just don't have the self-control to do that, where even if I'm looking to set up a meeting and it's like, hey, this is what works for me, but also what works for you. And if I don't see that give and take from a customer right off the bat, I'm like, nah, I don't think I want to work for you, because it's only one-sided at this point, and that is probably foreshadowing how this person is and what this experience is going to be like for the rest of the job. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm a lot of times not willing to take that risk, where I'm like, you seem like this whole thing is only about you. And I understand you're coming to me looking for work, but we have to have a relationship here, and it's got to go both ways. And I'm not willing to risk kind of entering into a one-sided relationship if this is how it's going to start. I'll definitely, I know, John, you also will like never speak your true mind to customers. And oftentimes I feel maybe in life as though if I'm not going to stick up for myself or my beliefs, who's going to? I have daughters, and I want them to be able to stand up for themselves or speak to somebody, tell them that they're unhappy, stand up for themselves no matter what the situation and no matter who that person is, and do it respectfully. But I don't want them to kind of walk on eggshells if they're in a situation where they feel uncomfortable. And I do treat my customers the same way, where I'll bend over backwards for you. I'll do whatever you need to for me, but I'm not going to be the person where it's always like, you know what, the customer's always right no matter what. You're going to tell them you're going to fix it, this, that. Like, I think that you have to put your foot down, and you have to kind of dig your heels in at times and kind of hold on to your guns and ensure that you're steering a lot of that process. Because if not, there's people and definitely customers who will see that and kind of take advantage of that throughout the entire build or throughout the entire project. And I think that sometimes you just, you have to be blunt and you have to be straightforward. And maybe that's not what the customer wants to hear, but I think in the long run, if you end up fulfilling your end of the bargain and knocking things out of the park and handling everything throughout the job, they'll end up respecting you for it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, John, I'm with you, where oftentimes I will just allude to the fact that I have a meeting or something like that, just in general. I don't know if I do it for the same reason, but I do. More recently, I've been more upfront, where it's like, no, I have a kids event, or I have to be at something for my daughter, and more often than not, the conversation seems to switch from like solely the project or like the work that's in front of us to like, now there's a personal relationship. And I'm not, and I don't think it's
you had a conflict in schedule.
No, I'm not saying conflict.
That's what I'm saying.
What?
But that's where that little reminiscent ambiance happen is when you had to say, I have a conflict. I have a kid's birthday party. We're going to Chuck E. Cheese. I think it happens way before that. I think it happens when you walk through the garage and see the hockey bag that's half open and go, dude, little dude plays. Like
No, I'm
that's
not
what that
saying
moment
that's when it. I'm not saying that's when you open up the personal side of it. I'm just saying that I see you're going to the extreme there, but no, I'm just saying I see your side of it. That's oftentimes my approach is just to say, oh, I have a phone, I have a call I got to be on, or I got a meeting I got to be in, and for me, I think I go back and forth between just being upfront about like Tyler said, it's like standing up for what you got to do and having the personal respect for both ways.
I mean, it's definitely not wrong. It's not like you're doing anything wrong. Oftentimes, I don't know if I'd be able to keep all of that straight, where I'd be like, yeah, I have a meeting to head to. And then I'd get there the next day and they'd be like, how's your afternoon? And I was like, oh, yeah, like they won the game. They'd be like, wait, I thought you had a meeting. I'd be like, oh, yeah, my bad. I don't think I can keep everything that straight.
It's a perfect example is when I get my hair cut. I'll do that during like a work day, so I don't take time away from the family. And I got my haircut 2 weeks ago, and I showed up on the job site, and Doug was like, "How was the meeting?" I was like, "There's a haircut." He goes, "Oh, I thought you said you had a meeting." I'm like, "I did. I told you I had a meeting."
you told Doug?
Yeah. It was
Your
just
own
like
people. Like,
yeah. I just was like, yeah, I got because I know I have other shit that I should be doing, but I was like, I felt guilty for getting a haircut.
That's amazing.
Got your nails.
I don't know.
I got my nails done.
I think it's 100% that I walk away and think about these things.
Yeah.
So it's 100% me thinking they're like me.
Well, you're looking to protect. You're looking to protect your customer.
Yeah, I just think it's like Tom Brady. He said that. You ever see that interview where he's at the barbershop and they're like, "Do you ever speak your truth?"
Wait, he was at a meeting?
No, he did like this, it's like this interview, and it's like whatever. And he's like, I've never spoken my honest to God truth. And since the entire time he was at the Patriots to where he is today, he feels like he's a little bit more free now, but he's like always just even. And I think with my clients, I still have camaraderie with them, but there's things that I definitely hold back on where I don't need to, if I'm taking a day off, they don't need to know. It's just, I have a certain protection that I need to have where I don't think I need to get involved. That's just 100% me. It could be totally wrong.
For like vasectomy, colonoscopy. You don't
I missed
get
that
into
appointment. I missed that appointment.
Which one?
I had it scheduled, the vasectomy. And then they called me the day before saying they didn't know if they got the referral. And I was like, so that means I don't have to show? How's that work?
I kind of want to ask one of this. I think we should just all agree that for our next appointments for whatever it is, kids games, barbershop, whatever you guys got to do, to say, I'm sorry, I'm getting calf implants. I got to go.
That, or I'm getting a vasectomy, because then you see your customers won't say anything to you.
And then you get a few days off, right? Because they're like, oh, don't bother him. He's at home.
And then if you show up the next day, they're like, dude's a hero.
Finally, he did something good in the world.
Can you guys tell me how to under promise and over deliver?
I probably can't. I'm the eternal optimist. Like, we go into these meetings and people are like, oh, so what do you think? Give us an idea on schedule. And I'm always like, well, this isn't going to go well, because I'm going to tell you, I think we can do this in 6 months, because I know in my mind I could get this done in 6 months. And I start to say sit, and Joe looks at me. He's like, I'm thinking like 10 months. So I definitely can't under promise and over deliver. I just try to be 100% transparent. I can't keep a different story straight for a different client. I can't tell you this or that. This is the truth. I'm going to tell you everything I know. I think it's a 6-month job if everything went perfectly. Nothing ever goes perfectly. How long is it actually going to take, Joe?
Yeah, and then I'll say 8. But yeah, I think it starts with schedule. If you give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, especially now, everything's just, it's impossible to predict.
So devil's advocate, if I add enough wiggle room to every single scope of work, if I add 2 days afloat to that, won't it balloon the project out so big, and then you charge management for the extended time that sometimes the project might be outside the budget range for what you normally do?
Yes.
So how do we work that angle? You get me? I totally agree with you, but we all know that once you write the schedule and you're like, oh shit, dude, management's like $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? I can't charge 100 bills.
I think sometimes, we make up for it just in the customer service side. I had a conversation with a guy today. We've been waiting on hardwoods. Well, this is the second week we're waiting on them, but we ordered them 4 weeks ago. They're 6-inch wide plank. But I had a 30-minute conversation with him. There was only about 5 minutes of it was about his job. The rest of it, we were talking about their upcoming vacation. He was asking us about our other jobs. And I think it's, just kind of creating that relationship. And so maybe you're under delivering on the construction side, but you're over delivering on their emotional side. Just that you're bringing it back to, they kind of feel like they're part of the team. One thing to bring a point that Travis and I do benefit from having partners is when someone needs to take a day off for a vacation, it's easy because then you have the other half of the company and just run it. And so your customer never feels like they're high and dry without you there.
The other way that we over deliver, I think, is on the cleanliness and finish side. Historically, I think I told you guys, we already established that a lot of our jobs were probably acquired because we have the sense to take our shoes off and, vacuum the floor and, best trash crew in town right here. These are the guys that go to the dump and don't leave it on my job site. So the cleanliness was always a thing, but I think our finished product often exceeds expectations. And I don't think that our clients can envision that level of finish. And we're not even delivering, I would love to say that we do the best work in town. And I like to think that we do on a lot of stuff. We do the best work that we can do. And I'm sure there's guys out there who do it better. I'm sure that Tyler's paint jobs look better than all our paint jobs. And I would love to be able
to. His mustache looks better than all of ours.
Wow. I mean, that one's kind of tough to beat.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the finished product, when our clients come in and they see us, wiping the fingerprints off the towel bar and, picking at the corner of the plastic that wouldn't quite come off of the appliances with a pocket knife or tweezers or whatever. When they see that we care that much, that's the over deliver. I don't know if I could ever truly under promise because I feel like I always have to be honest. And if I'm under promising, I'm being dishonest in my mind. I have to be fully transparent. I got to give them exactly, hey, I thought it was going to be 6, but sure enough, Joe was right. We're going to have to wait a week on the framer, and then it's supposed to rain, and we're going to have a hard time getting those eye joists because we didn't plan on that. The architect.
It's tough to do the explanation without selling fear.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, the professional end of this is that you're not trying to go, well, it's really hard to do this. Windows are crazy. Like, I feel like everyone just tunes you out when you start kind of bringing up all that stuff. We all get that.
Yeah.
Like for me, like we had an issue with windows. We're getting these windows in, and again, they added different parts. So we're all over this house. We started with an addition, we gutted the master, then we gutted the opposite side of the house, then we gutted the middle of the house. So like they're still living in the kitchen and walking through the house, which is already a nightmare. But we order windows.
Fronts, man. You can't fight.
What's that? You
can't win battles on multiple fronts. That's military.
Yeah, but I try.
You're gonna lose.
I accept those challenges. But no, the problem was like to your point, I'm just like you. Even though I don't tell people the truth about my kids and that stuff, and I'm strategic about how I place words, but I am like, I'm gonna go to Pella. I'm gonna get an answer on when we get these windows, and I go there and I'm like, when are they coming in? And they're like, it's this date for these windows, this date for that window. And I send them a screenshot. I go, hey, this is what we have coming in. And then I stop in there the following week and it changes. I don't feel like I'm over promising or under promising. I'm just doing my job, which is to relay information.
Yeah.
And that we will plan around that. Like we'll put up plastic on the windows. We'll put humidify, my little moisture content meters everywhere. If it stays solid and we have a dehumidifier in there, I'm going to lay hardwood. Plaster is done. I'm going to keep the machine rolling as far as I can to an extreme where we're not going to compromise quality. And as soon as those windows come in, I'll go pick them up. That's what we did. So it's like, it's just trying to, like you said, be transparent, but not be like, we had an issue with the past employee where it's like, yeah, I don't know when they're going to come in, and shrug their shoulders. It's like, imagine spending $1 million on a renovation and the person that's in charge of it just like, it is what it is. Like, this is the industry that we're in right now. And it's like, yo, like, that's not the answer.
That's not a good look. I mean, with what you said, to me, sounds exactly like, or I translated in my mind the same way as what Joe said. You are bringing the client along. You are treating them as an equal and a partner in the process. You are sharing with them the same way that you would share with one of your PMs. Hey, this is the update on the windows. The client's
100%.
what's going on with the windows. The builder knows what's going on with the windows. And as soon as we got the windows, they're going in, because that's the goal.
Agreed.
Do you?
I suck at setting expectations.
I mean, you know, Travis, you said that you feel like if you're not honest and transparent, you feel like you're lying, or if you're under promising. But in that scenario, like Windows, if they're telling you whatever, you 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and you're going back to the client and telling them 6 to 8 weeks, and then it ends up being 9 weeks, like what is the harm in saying, you know, bumping that out 8 to 10 weeks?
No, there's no harm in it, for sure. You're absolutely right, because now you take the stress away from the client and you bear that for them. So the world's not that.
I mean, it's a balance. Yeah, right. It's a balance. It's not.
But I will say that,
like you said, it's not black or white, but it is.
I just feel that we don't have any downside to being transparent and honest, even if it does take them a little bit along for the ride on the stress roller coaster of building a house, not being able to get material. I would rather have that than have to remember, oh, I told you it was going to be 8, but I thought it was going to be 6. I can't keep track of misinformation that way. I can only, and we do most of our communication, if we can, by email. Because of the partnership, we want everyone looped in all the time. So I try not to have individual conversations where it's just me and the client on a text thread, or, you know, just us in the field. And if we do that, then I'll usually follow up with an email. Hey, these are the meeting notes from today. You and I talked about this. I'm looping Joe in. I want to make sure that, you know, the client's husband, the client's wife is on the thread too, because they shouldn't have to answer those questions. They shouldn't have to recall all that. So I definitely don't think there's any harm in giving yourself enough breathing room. And we do that too, because that whole we're the last 20% or whatever it is kind of percentage moving target. We're honest with the client about that too. Like, oh yeah, we're subbing this drywall out, and they're going to get it to looking about 85% of that level 4 finish that we promised. And then we're going to have to run through and do pre-paint, and we'll get it the rest of the way. So we're telling the client right off the top, yeah, we're bringing in people to help us get this done, but there's no way that it's going to just be their 9 days. It's going to be 2 more days. Quentin and Joe, our guys, are working on a job right now, doing Bondo on trims and drywall touch-ups for a job that should be going into paint. And we paid crews to do that already. But that last little bit, we told the clients, hey, we're going into paint. We need these 2 more days to get it the rest of the way.
Yeah. Well, and when we were talking about like the 6 month versus 8 month, usually that's like for a fixed price job. Like, have allowances in there, like cabinets, tiles, you know, stuff that are cost movers. But our money is tied up in that being maybe we'll bid it for 7. And then it goes back to, in the extreme cases where if something's really taking a long time, we can just tell them, like, look, we're not making any more money being on the job longer. Like,
yeah, it's funny how that works, where I have a customer where I did a lump sum job for, and it ended up taking longer than anticipated. You know, I knew I was behind schedule, but it's like, you know, let's continue on the course we are on. Let's still execute the way that we always do. We're not going to take any shortcuts, and end up really reducing my profit margins on the job. A lot of it had to do with just slowing down because of the questions and walking through and getting approvals and just things that drug out longer than they should have. So I kind of learned my lesson the next time, and it was basically a component of time and material where I was developing a budget, and then I was going to charge you for what time we had on the job, my rate, my helper's rate, whatever the materials are, and my markups, and was fully disclosing all of that. And what the customer was willing to accept when it was time and material was something completely different than when it was lump sum. When it was lump sum, there was no issues with, let's get this here. I think this can be better. But when, it's time and material, and it's like, you know what, just leave that the way it is. Like, we can live with that. And I'm like, it's completely different standard when you're paying for it hourly versus when I'm eating my own time.
Yes.
And I think when you do have lump sum jobs, customers, as long as you're executing, to the level that you kind of specified and that they're used to, are more understanding with the schedule dragging out. It's when you get into jobs, Nick and John, where you guys are doing a lot of cost plus, and there may be cost associated with the longer duration of the project for whatever reason, that now customers are upset because, one, it's taking longer, and two, it's costing them more money. But I have found that customers are a little bit more lenient when it's taking more time and they're not paying for it.
I just feel like the lesson I've learned in the last, couple months, like now that I've taken these jobs over and kind of really just buckled down and pulled the pants up on these projects in a way, is that they're like all about it. Like when I'm texting them on a daily basis, like, this is the update, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening. And it's just being transparent, but going, hey, this is still happening. Like right now with the weather, we have 2 concrete pours this week, and Wednesday was supposed to be clear. So beginning of the week, we're like, concrete's on for Wednesday, for this job and for this job. Today, I got to be like, hey, the weather changed. It's now 6% rain on Thursday. We're shifting all the pours to then on the different jobs. So that way they know what's up. So it's just, and I feel like I'm communicating with them on a daily basis, like minute by minute, like, hey, glass guys couldn't get in. We're doing floors Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Someone had a cancellation because of that. Hey, glass guys are coming today. So that's my under promise, over deliver, because I had them set up for next week. So when they get in early, boom, I don't celebrate it. It's just, I'm passing on that information. I don't get to celebrate until they move in, and pay the final bill. That was me being the builder, and then me being a business owner. I split my personalities in half right there and answered the question for you guys.
I watched it happen. It was a little bit of a nightmare come to life, but it was cool, man. Thanks for taking us along for the ride. To get back to Tyler's point, I think that the long running joke at Catalyst was that our busiest division was our not for profit, and then we eventually started a not for profit, and now we can't use that joke anymore. But that 100% was true. It was like as soon as the client had skin in the game on that next level, well, let's go over it again. I'd like you to maybe, I'm just not super happy with the joint on this section of this tile. This grout joint's slightly wider than the other. And I know it's just $3 subway tile and the nibs are that size, but can we just pop that out and redo it? I'm like, yeah, we can. We sure can. I can't guarantee it's going to look a lot better, but we might be able to shift it to 32nd without screwing up the whole layout. Sure. They would ask for that right up to the point where it was like, okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. We can pull off this whole wall and reset it. We can grind the nibs off, and we can set the tile with spacers instead of using the factory nibs on your $3 subway tile. You selected that tile, that's a function of that tile, or the sheet mosaic. The sheet mosaic is the one that I hate the most. You got to pull it all apart and reset it. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to hide that sheet. That line is always there. And so we do a really good job of setting expectations, and they make those selections and say, look, this is a function of this tile. It's a manufactured good. It has this level of tolerance, and we can be consistent with that. But this is what you're going to see. And if you stand at this corner of the room, you're going to see that line. And was it you, Tyler, that did a post on that recently? Someone did a great post on that recently, talking about how it just totally telegraphs and conveys that sheet layout. If you don't, I don't know, maybe it was Jake.
We joked about it
I
on
don't
the
think it was
podcast
me,
saying,
but yeah.
we said that if you take photos of anything
that
that's
was it. It was
like penny rounds or sheet goods, it doesn't lie through the camera.
right. So as soon as the client knows that going in, the expectation is set. That's their time to choose. That's where they can decide, oh, okay, well, this is cost plus work, and I want you to spend the time to make that go away. I want you to pull all the pieces off the sheet and reset them manually. That's a pretty rare client, but they do exist. Most of them are like, well, just do the best you can with it. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it's gonna look 99%, but if you want 100%, we have to pull it all apart, or you need to select a different product.
Well, I think that the tough part for people that are all different levels, whether you're a PM for a firm that's, preaching different quality, is that how do you convey that, and at what point in time? Meaning, like, what ends at that window up? Like, you get the project and it's your project at this point. You're a PM and or you're super and you're dealing with this, and you get these penny rounds. Like, what is your level of, like, all right, I own this. What do I do? And that's a really tough spot, because I've been there 100 different ways to Sunday, and it's like, what's the protocol here? Meaning, I think that sometimes people have all these thoughts, then the penny round comes down and you're just like, fuck it, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And then you go with it. And then by the time, and I think a lot of subs do this. Subs will do this all day, where, like, the other day we were supposed to pour a foundation, and we have a 9'9" finish. Okay. And I'm walking through the job. I got no PM. My new PM hadn't started yet. And I'm walking through it. I'm doing all my drops, for garages, because I don't trust what's on the drawings. I kind of still go there, look at the elevation, look at the grading, and then drop it a little bit lower and pour my slab. And I go, how far up you pouring? He goes, I'm pouring to 3 inches down, 9'1". And my mind just starts like flickering like bad Wi-Fi. And I'm just like, what is happening? And I'm like, 9'1"? I'm like, 9'1"? How do I get 9'9" finish? 9'1", I minus 4 inches from my slab. And I add 3 inches from my plates. I'm like, nothing adds up. So, like, I'm doing these drops at the same time. My mind's just like glitching out. And I pull them aside, and I've done the math on my site plan, like every which way, to get like, this doesn't add to 9'9". And dude, they were gonna pour a 9'1" wall because that's what fit in their form, regardless of what the drawing said. It was only to a point that someone had to catch it. You get me? Like, and my point is supers, PMs, even contractors that own their own business, I think there's so much going on that sometimes they throw it in fucking neutral, and they like to stare into the lights. And it's until someone captures it, is it 40% of the way in? I had a call with a guy this weekend, and he's like, yeah, my tile guy started setting some hex. He's going to hate, I don't want to say his name. Started setting hex, new tile guy to me. I promised this project would be over in 14 weeks. And then by the time they got out of the corner, the grout line was like 3/8 of an inch on hex. And he's like, what do I do? He's like, do I just say we're going to leave it and then we'll fix it in phase 2? And I'm like, now you just assume they're going to give you, after fucking up, another phase of the project. I would go, no. And I go, I would call them and meet them there and go, hey, I'm leaning towards pulling up this tile. It's going to add 4 days to this aggressive schedule, blah, blah. But you get me? Like, my whole point of this is that, when do you want to capture it? Do you want to be the person that has the foresight to go, all right, hey, this is going to be a nightmare? Like, I tell all my guys, we don't take it off the sheets. It's just really making sure that it blends very well, and you're looking at it through the phone. We've done, penny rounds, sheet goods, and it has dialed in really good. But I'm not going, hey, guys, when the penny round comes, I want you to do a really good job. Everyone high five and take off. All right? That's not going to ensure that it gets done right. No. What's Tyler going to do? Tyler's going to be right there all over it and be like setting it with them. Like, they're both holding the same piece of tile and setting it. So that's what we have to do, to set the expectation, because otherwise they'll go back to their neutral. So I guess for the longest roundabout way is like, how do you set that, or did you miss it? And are you now trying to catch it in hindsight, and do you tear it up? Like, Nick's just going to tear it up. I just took an entire shower I just took apart because it was off. So it's like, Nick, I should have videoed it, but I didn't.
But it's like, if you're gonna
Perfect
ask
marketing.
me, hey, like, should I take this up or not? It's 3/8 out. I want to be like, if you're having to ask me that, then yeah, you should probably pull it up.
Yeah, but
but
what about
there's
your
a schedule
super?
component.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things that, yes, by itself, it's a definite yes.
Right.
But without everything else involved, like who's paying for it? Like, is the tile guy? Do I have enough tile? Is there floor heat? Is the floor heat going to get damaged? Do we have to go all the way back up? Who's paying for the floor heat too? And then on top of that, now we're in the house longer. Do we have more tile? Is there a lot color issue? Like, dude,
all the extenuating circumstances have to be factored in, especially
It is, but at the same time, like when you sold that job to the customer, if that, if potential issues with hex tile or their selections or with the designer weren't clearly articulated, that, realistically, you're liable to pull that out if there's floor heat, if there's a lot color issue, if they want to select more expensive tile, where it's like, that's why I have so much trouble even putting that stuff in the hands of a subcontractor, because now you're faced with this decision. And when you sold that job not under the assumption that there would be a 3/8 discrepancy or a 1/4 inch discrepancy from tile joints from one side to the other, which for me is the difficult part there, because all signs point to pulling that out, because that's not what the customer paid for. And it was priced with the schedule kind of as is. So now why should they sacrifice their product and their schedule because the tile guy did a shitty job?
that's the
but
thing.
my question.
Go ahead, John.
Travis, go.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say that the role of the project manager and the builder is to manage those expectations. And as those selections come in, to have that conversation and say, okay, at this price point, we are good for your, 12 by 24 tile laid out on running bond. And we're going to use levelers and spacers, and everything's going to be very consistent. I think we're looking at a 1/16 of an inch variance max on any grout joints and alignment. We shouldn't have any issues. However, if you change that selection, we need to be notified, and we want to talk about the changes that will come with that, because this is what we bid. This is what your proposal is based on. And then they meet with the designer. The designer comes in with the diamond pattern. I won't name names, but let's call her Jerry Rohr. Joe Nusso, I'm talking about, very difficult client, very high standards. Met with the designer, completely went off book, totally added
walls of tile.
Yeah, and what, $20,000 to $40,000 of changes between cabinets and tile, that all of these very next level expectations. And we just brought her back and said, okay, that's fine. We would love to do that. I think it's going to be beautiful. This is going to be the feature of the home, 100%. And to deliver that, your budget's going to move accordingly, not just the tile, because now we're furring out this wall so that tile can be in plane with the finished drywall surface, because you don't even want that reveal. And we're also going to go ahead and mount the floating vanity on that. And those posts have to come out through the tile, and that's going to obstruct we're putting faucets on exterior walls. We're doing all kind of crazy stuff that just had to be done because that's what she wanted. But we did have that hard conversation where we said, this is a sheet product and it's going to move this way at these joints. And oh, by the way, we would recommend that you not choose that product if you want it anyway. This is what we expect you will see: a variance of greater than the 16th, likely greater than an 1/8. If you want a different product, we can improve the performance at your price point. If you want this product, we should increase your price point, or you should lower your expectations, because that's what you get with that product. Did your designer prep you for this? Well, no, she didn't say it was going to be any product.
You just threw someone under the bus and told them to compromise the design. Like, it's just, I wouldn't have done any of it. I would have been like, yeah, we're going to hammer this thing out.
And
like, I don't say no to anyone.
Then, because it would be
it's cost plus
more.
For me, it's cost plus.
Okay, well, this is a fixed project.
My point with my whole thing is that I think people coast a little bit, and when we go to fix stuff, we're all hands on deck. I just think that we need to be more hands on deck when it's starting to get set and prepped, the same way you would be if you had to fix it, and the same way you're going to communicate to a client.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen. I mean, I think we all go, all right, he's got it. You know, he sounds like he's good to go. I'm going to come back in 4 hours. And shit, he had 4 guys here that showed up and they crushed that bathroom, and I had no idea what the grout line was.
But that's what, even, you know, when customers want to rag on management fee, or how much management time you have on a job, you know, even for me to have a sub on a job, I then need to be able to mark that price up enough that I can, you know, properly and adequately manage that sub. And you know, even when people get a hold of me now, it's like, hey, our management fee, even if I'm not doing the work, is going to be higher because I need to be able to spend the necessary time to manage that sub, even if I'm not doing the work. And when, you know, customers, if you don't have enough management time that you can sit there and go through that stuff and, you know, help that sub with layout and explain to them, you know, what you expect out of them, and not just, like you said, John, get them going and then peace out and then come back and say there's an issue. You need to be able to make that time to be able to get back to that job once they start setting and ensure that things are right, or have the relationship with them that, hey, listen, if things don't start going right, I know that we're on a time crunch here, but I need you to stop and call me. Because at the end of the day, you know, I believe that our customers deserve better than, hey, putting them in the position to say, hey, what do you want to do with this? I know we're on a tight time constraint and it's not as good as we would think. I don't even want to put them in that position in the first place. And I know that it happens, and it's, you know, it's inevitable to a certain extent, but I think that we can do a better job, even if it's charging customers for that management time. If that's what we're selling, that's what we need to do.
I think this
Agreed.
for us is not nearly as much about you know, site prep or, you know, pre-con with the trades on site. This is very much setting expectations with the client 100% of the time. It's very much if it's a partnership. They're part of the team. They're part of the design team for sure, but they're going along with us on the build as a partner. And so we're just informing them, if this is your selection and this is the product that you want, that is not consistent with what was planned. So now you've made a change, and so we make a change. And that changes schedule, that changes money, that changes whatever. And for some clients, they're like, oh, I'm not worried about that. I understand what you're talking about. And yeah, it's fine. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess if you're fine with more than a 16th, then that's the execution level that's consistent with the price point on that product. Then I guess everybody's getting what they want. That would not be our preference. You know, we want everything portfolio quality. We want to be able to show everything off. I want every job to be the lasting business card. You know, I want them showing off the holiday party and I'm getting 6 new clients. That's what I want. But if they don't want to pay for that, and that's not what they're expecting, us just moving the budget up and saying, well, nope, every job that we do, we're going to have, you know, 100% 90-degree corners, even in a 75-year-old structure. We're going to float out walls. It's just part of our process. We're going to get a lot less jobs, and we're not going to serve those clients because they're going to hire someone else who's going to tell them that they're going to do it and not do it either. So we're very much about that. Hey, you know, it's an if this, then that every time. And we have a very high standard, but I don't think it's fair to just tell the client that we need to include an extra, you know, $20K to prep all their bathrooms to make everything square and perfect so that we can get rid of that 16th of an inch that they don't care about. And some clients do. Some clients certainly do. I'm sure Tyler's clients do. And it sounds like Nick and Johnny's do too. Maybe we're just lucky here in the Midwest where people are like, that 16th doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all expectation. And, you know, to speak to that, it's like, you know, we have very opposite ends of the spectrum for 2 of our clients right now. You know, one has very high, near unrealistic expectations of how things should look. And it's, you know, we'll approach it any way we want. They've spent an exorbitant amount of money making this place near perfect, and it's never been, wow, this place looks great. It's always like, man, you know, that doesn't look that good. and it's always like the smallest thing. And you know, it wears on me, and I know it wears on my guys, because it's like you're never getting like, you're proud, and then you're complete, like, immediately the rug's ripped out from under you. But then on the other end, it's, we have clients that, they value other things, where it's like maybe the envelope of the home, and the finish and things like that. The tile, handmade tile, grout joints can slip here and there. That's, the overall paint quality finish. No, that's not that important. It's hand built. It's not a robot building this thing. So
artistic freedom.
Well, and that keeps everyone on the same page as far as the joy of it too. So then Nick's guys that execute this, they get to have the joy back in it and the pride of their work.
Right.
And then the client can be joyful about the experience that they had too, when you have all that,
right.
when everything's going together, when you have that right symbiosis. That's a successful
project. Yeah.
Nick, I don't know how you navigate that first example.
It's been
I don't know how you get anyone to come to work and want to do anything for anybody. If I'm not knocking that project at all, but I'm putting myself in that place, and I'm like, that's where you get the Tyler out of me. I'd be like, dude, fuck off. If you can't recognize that this is like the best that you get, and I've set every expectation, set the examples, it just fuck me.
I think because John, I agree. I think what the reason
they don't listen, do they? Because all my clients do, for the record. It's been great.
I don't know. They watch every story. I don't know if they listen to the podcast, but every time I meet with them, they're like, "You must think we're the most annoying people in the world." I'm like, I actually don't, but it's like, but I'm trying to.
But really, my PM does, my painter, my electrician, my plumber, my HVAC, plasterer.
I love everybody I know hates you.
I don't. That's all that matters. But I think.
How do you get the mojo to stay alive? Like, I've had issues where we paint one room, the client changes the color, and then they change it a third time. That painter's like, dude, I'm all set. Right. So that's when I buy a food truck. To like try and let's just break this shit up again and hit the reset button, because that's a lot of food trucks for you, Nick.
Food truck to start a new career, or food truck to make them happy?
No, it'd be like, how do I show them I appreciate them? And I know they're painting it, because like you get paid to paint it 3 times, but there's no joy.
No, I get it. It's, dude, like it's painful. Like the plaster was one area that we spent. The guy was there for months, and it is perfect.
You spent how much I bought my first house for?
Yeah.
Plaster.
And every wall is dead flat. Perfect. You take a square, every inside corner is square, every outside corner is perfect.
For the record,
square.
If I spent that money, I would be there with I would have bought a brand new level if I was a client and been like, yo, let me just check every.
I know, but it's like, it's but it's still hand done.
Yes.
It's still hand done, and there's still going to be imperfections. And it's like, the reference that you made way back in the beginning of the podcast about having the little pocket knife peeling off the little edges of the piece of the plastic of the appliance. It's like, it's literally what I do on Punch List.
You're a psycho if you don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're a sociopath.
I don't have nails, so I have to use a knife.
But it's like, I'll sit there and I'll sit on, like, it just, I just walk around with a razor blade, because there's always something that you can scrape off.
Oh.
It's like paint on a window, paint on, cleaning up the edge of the trim, cleaning up
the inside
up
corners.
Yes.
Oh, I
bring screwdrivers, so all my screws are north and south.
Yeah.
I'm a big psycho that way.
No, that's the way it should be. Although I will say, I actually, a while back, I went to horizontal on receptacle cover plates. I think horizontal looks better there, and up and down looks better on switches. If it's a single,
I put mine in the baseboard. Sorry.
Oh, so wow, Mr. Baseboard. I'm
just saying. Because I thought about it. I say that because I thought about it. Okay,
that's fair.
I was like, which is the way to go here?
No, that's great. I think that we all have a similar level of finish that we're aspiring to. There's certainly levels to the game, and your client dictates that to you, and hopefully they communicate that at the beginning of the job. And that way you can set that expectation and deliver what the client wants, because every client's got a different target. Not everybody wants that multi-million-dollar experience because they don't want to pay for that. They want it done by Thanksgiving, and they're fine with, damn, this looks better than any other part of my house, or this is the nicest house I've ever lived in. And those clients are super satisfied, and they're happy, and they're easy to work for. But we serve those clients that are a huge pain too. And the ones that are never satisfied, it takes the joy out of it. And this is a hard season to have joy in anyway, with the challenges that we're facing. So we try to pick the right client, do the jobs with the clients that are going to be appreciative of the work that's done. And then those are good partnerships.
I just want people that are listening to this to realize that with everything you just said, the only common denominator is us in this room.
Yeah.
Like the only person that's going to set that, and it's you. Like if you're sitting there going, well, it's probably the designer that's going to say that, or it's going to be someone else. You're the only person that holds the expectation, the budget, schedule, and quality in their hands. So even if it's going to be a rough conversation, you have to have it. Like that example I told you about the kid with the hex tile. He called the client. They came in that day. He texted me later that day and goes, they were just super appreciative that I went over it with them and gave them both options. And they were like, tear it up. We'll take the 4 days, make it right. And so but I'm like, now you get to sleep the rest of the weekend. Like if you were like debating it, because he's like, I'm going to send it at the very end of our call. He goes, I'll send an email out right now. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, I'm going to update them on what the options are via email. I'm like, oh, no. Look, it's got to be a face-to-face thing. Everyone's a tough guy in email. Like everybody. Even the nicest people will be assholes via email. Even I'll just read it like I'm an asshole. Okay. I don't know. And I'm like, he goes, but they haven't been here that often. I'm like, if there's ever a time to have someone there, it's now. And to see their face and to compel what you're trying to get across, none of that, all that is lost if you do it via email. And it can just be kind of effortless. And he's just like, yeah, done. So it's just really dialing that in. And I guess my point is that we're all got a ton of experience here, but people that don't have that conversation, get it under your belt now, because the sooner you do that, the next 6 will be easier and you won't be losing money.
And be bold with your architect at the planning stage. If you've got an integrated design situation where you're able to sit with the client and the architect and say, while you're sitting at the table, hey, are we talking about level 4 finish on this or level 5? Yeah. Are we going to go ahead and, this is all going to be Schluter? Are we doing corners here and there? Are we doing recessed lighting? I want to know, are we doing no base shoe? We're not doing a lot of modern in this market. I know that surprises you, Johnny, because the architectural respect you have for my market is high, and you would think a lot of mid-century and modern. And we have a couple of big projects coming up, both of which are modern, and one of the top architects in the area for that specific mid-century look. When we sat down and we're like, I see your selections. I see what you're trying to do with these recessed lighting troughs. I know where you're going, and I think we can get there. But I need to know right now, with that skylight, are we going to be having clients that don't want to pay for level 5? Because there's no way I can execute without that expenditure. So if their budget is not going to align with that, you need to back this play. We have to talk to them now. We need to eliminate that detail, or we need to tell them the only way to execute that is if we do this next level. And
see, I feel like I only would have said the second half. Like I would never, it's like kids when I coach, be like, hey, don't pass to the other team. What did I just say to them? Now the only thing they're thinking about is passing to the other team because I just put it in their head. So like for me to be like, hey, like we can't execute that. I don't ever want them thinking we can't execute. I think it's more of like, hey, with that skylight and the way it's going to shine down, no matter what, this hallway needs to be level 5. It's the only way it's going to get priced out. And that's how I'm going to price it going forward. We clear? Good. So that way I'm not creating, I'm going to sound so rude on this podcast, but I'm just like, I just don't want it. I want to set that expectation. I'm going to set the standard that way. And then it's on them to have the next confrontation. You get me? And they go, no, well, we really want level 3. Then they have to open their mouth and do it. My point is that you're not going through the whole realm of things going, if you guys want that, then I can't do that. It's more like the only way this is happening is this, and try and maybe we don't finish the basement. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's how I look at it, because that's the only way people understand sacrifice, is that you can't buy your $8,000 TV. That's, you know, or their Wolf range, whatever. You get me? Like, you have to put these little penalties. Like, that's what that equals.
Yeah. But if we don't educate, because architects aren't builders, they're typically not as in tune with, and why would they be? They shouldn't be as in tune with material costs as we are, because we're moving material every day. So they're not going to be as up to the minute on what it costs to get this stuff done in this market as we are. Yeah. So if we sit in that meeting with the architect and the client, and they're like, okay, we're doing this, you know, we got this accent wall, it's going to be this fireplace, and, you know, we're looking for this floor to ceiling glazing on this wall. And we're like, that's great. This project's looking at about 1.5. You know, we may, if you're really going to do all this casework, and we're talking about brass and all these other crazy inlay details, we may be coming up on 2. Is that where you guys are thinking? Oh no, we were looking at 1. We were looking 1.2 max. Okay, great. We would love to build this project at 1.2. You're going to have a hard conversation between husband and wife, usually, about what do we want to let go. And she's going to get the casework that she wants, and he's not going to get the garage that he wants, or whatever it is, to bring those numbers down, to make it work. Because our standard of building, I won't say it doesn't encompass the aesthetic. It does, executing the aesthetic that is being asked of us. But if they want Wolf, Viking, Sub-Zero, whatever, and they settle for Thermador, I really don't care. That's not my concern. My concern is, does the house last 500 years? Does it keep the water out? Is it comfortable? Does every building detail do exactly what it was designed to do and perform for a long period of time so that they can pass the home on to their children? That's much more important to me than something fleeting that is a $75 a square foot tile selection for the accent wall. That tile's going away in 10, 15 years. They're going to redecorate. The next owner is probably going to change that out. So I want it on the record with the architect in the room and the client, everybody on the same page. Hey, there's no movement on the envelope. The envelope is ours. Yeah. And the mechanicals, for that matter, because that's a big player in the envelope. So everything that goes in it, let's talk about. But
yeah, but like that level 5 for the hallway with that skylight.
Yeah.
I would advocate the same way you do for an envelope.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
There is no turning back. Like, what are your options? So why give them? Like, you wouldn't do it on the envelope. You wouldn't do it on windows. You wouldn't do it on air sealing. You wouldn't do it on HVAC. So that's you. It's a great example, because like, I did a lot of green stuff years ago, and now I incorporate a lot of that. It's just how we roll. You get me? And there's very little compromise in that. And it gives me the ability to have more flexibility in the systems that we put in the houses because of the zero compromise that we have. But I think it's how do you price that job out so you are confident with all those details? They are important. I know that some are gonna be trendy, but ideally they shouldn't be. And we should be building heirloom homes. The way I look at it is that it's kind of a thing where a home is now something that's an equity piece, and it's part of your portfolio, and then you flip it over 2 years or 3 years, and it's not like our kids, it's a commodity. But I want to have something that, if it could be built, and someone, like, we try and do a lot of forever homes. That's our clients just say it, and it's like, dude, I love that you're saying it, because he says it, she says it, and then hopefully that if they do update it, they call us if it is 20 years. But the envelope is solid. There's nothing that's happening there. But my point is that I think as the builder, you're the only one that's going to advocate for a design. Is someone like the architect's creativity stops at the desk, and it's your job to create it and make it happen without compromise. And if you have to raise a couple red flags, but I think it's your job to, we have a similar staircase. It's this huge round staircase with a skylight at the top, and it shines all the way down in the basement in a 1912 home. Like, I understand all the repercussions that I just said and how it has to happen, but it's like, but in my eyes, it's like, all right, we have to price that out and make it happen. And maybe we don't finish the gym, something that we can get into on phase 2 later, or the garage. But it's more of, I want to stand my ground on all those details. If they really want that to happen, and I got to understand like the hierarchy of all these things, like, kitchen, master bath, those things are usually the hierarchy. I'll spend a lot of money in these 2 spots, and then we'll kind of throw whatever tiles left over, in the basement bath or whatever else. And it's my job to kind of move the budget around per se, to make sure that there is less compromises where more people will see. So I don't know. Why wouldn't you stand up for that level 5 the same way you do for your envelope? Fuck, another long question.
I think part of, at least in our area, what we're experiencing historically, if you're not in there, those first initial meetings with the architect and the client, the architect will start giving really bad numbers to the homeowner, where you could be off 30, 40%. And so what Travis was getting at is, when we can get in there on those first 2-3 meetings, we can really start setting a realistic budget. And yeah, I do want to be where you're at, Johnny, where we're not, we're going to go ahead and price that at level 5. But usually we're coming in at a deficit where they already have told the client, oh, this is an $800,000 house. And I look at the plans and I'm like, this is 1.2. And then we're having these, we still want to do the job, but we're already starting at the bottom of the hill. And then, we've lost jobs to production builders where they've completely dumped the plans that we've put, hours into, and they build something. It kind of looks the same, but they've gotten rid of the fireplaces, the heated floors, the, floating back deck. I think some of it's a different market, and how we adapt out here in Kansas.
There's a really important role in being at the table, and it definitely starts at the design phase. But if you can't get there, we always say we can't do you any good if we don't get the job. So if there's another capable builder who can do it at that price, you should definitely use them. And we occasionally run into folks at the grocery store who say, I recommend you to all my friends. I'm like, that's weird. You didn't even hire me. I'm like, well, no, we hired the guy that we could afford or that was cheaper. And we know how that went. And so that's why we recommend you. Like, oh, okay. Well, thanks. Like, it's weird to be recommended by someone that chose not to work with you. But I think that people do appreciate that honesty. And even when it's the honesty that means that we're not a good fit for them. It's just, we've been talking for 3 hours about how hard our job is. You guys want to talk about something else? This is a bad deal, right?
I also think that even if you don't get involved in the design phase and a set of drawings do come your way, it's the same as, Nick, to go to your point, is that if I add 2 weeks to every single timeline I get, when I get those drawings, do I do the same thing and go, hey, this is a $1.2 million house? That first meeting, as soon as I get the drawings, and if they don't come back to you, it's over. Yeah. The problem that we have is that we get those drawings and we know it's 1.2. Then they tell us they're up front and say our budget's 900,000. And then you start trying to rub pennies together to make it happen. And you've set yourself up for a nightmare. And we've all done it. It's just trying to be honest with ourselves in that project early on, even if you're not involved in that design phase, that, hey, even if I try and value engineer this thing like crazy, the only way you're going to save money is if I downsize the size of it or shrink up the window openings, because windows are huge numbers right now. 2 years ago when I did windows, it was like $28,000 for some of our houses. And now it's like $60,000 minimum. I have one that's behind me right now. It's 1.7 million for windows. And it's like, dude, like, how you can't, that is the design.
Yeah.
There's no way of coming back from that. So you have to have a sit down, and if they have to hire a smaller, a different type of builder, they're going to compromise. Again, my point is you have the opportunity to educate them right then and there, not sell them on fear. But the only way you're going to get that number to work is if you compromise quality and the experience and the management that goes into your house. It's the only way it's going to happen. So it's just being upfront with that, even if you're not in that early phase.
For sure.
Do you guys have management in your budgets?
Yeah. For our new
How
ones.
much? How much?
We don't parse it out on our remodel work. On our remodel work, it's built into line on it. And I'll let you talk, Joe. You handle the pricing.
That's basically it. Yeah.
He just said it and just passed it over. This is how it works, but I'm going to let him talk about it.
Yeah, our new construction, and it's driven a little bit by how the customer they feel. So we have a couple that are cost plus with a lower management fee and a higher markup. And then a couple customers are like, well, no, I'd just rather pay your management fee. We're like, well, it's going to be inflated because it covers everything. So do it a couple different ways. Even with our higher end remodels, sometimes they want a fixed price. Sometimes they want to do cost plus. So yes, the short answer is we do a management fee. We're still like kind of making our way through those waters though, because I remember when we first started out, we were going to do a pretty small job. It was like a big 2-car garage, and we listed out all the subs and then our management fee at the very bottom of the proposal, and the homeowner just about coughed himself out of the room because he couldn't believe we were going to charge him like $8,000 to build this garage. And so it's customer perception. Then I also think it's going back to like driving your company. We have been pushing a certain direction. I do think that attracts a certain type of client. And we have seen a lot of success doing a more open book approach to our builds where, they're approving the invoices, before they get paid. If it's, say it's, tile and they pick a more expensive layout and they add 7 niches to their master shower, if it's over the initial budget, I'll have them approve that before we proceed. And that kind of brings it back to that they've hired us, but we're a team in the whole building process.
How do you come up with your management? Is it a percentage of the job? Is it based on how many weeks it's going to take?
A little bit of all of it, and then how much time. So we have a project that we're getting ready to break ground on, and it's like 35 minutes away from like our home area. And so that management fee is a lot higher than this project we're going to do that's 5 blocks from Travis's house. So yeah, it's basically our time and then a little bit of markup on top of that.
We schedule it out loosely at the bidding phase or the estimate phase, I guess you should say. We looking at it and go, okay, I think, I'll say it's 6 months and Joe'll say it's 9, and we'll figure out how many hours per week we're going to commit to it to make that happen. And then I like to work it backward then to figure out those management hours realistically for that duration. And that's how we end up losing when the job runs long, because material's not there. And you're like, oh, well, I bid my management at this. My management's all used up. I got 3 more months of build because of the pandemic. And we've got some jobs that have gone that way.
Yeah. To be completely transparent, we're definitely not perfect.
No, I asked that because I have calls with certain builders and I ask, and most of them are taking it out of some light carpentry that they perform, and the rest of it comes out of their O&P. Yeah. And, you have the absolute perfect storm right now for anyone that's not charging management to say, hey, everything's crazy. It takes me way more phone calls to dial everyone in. And the sub trades that we have, they're all spread too thin. So I have to keep a better eye on quality. So it's almost, again, going back to the example of the envelope for you. You can't compromise on it. This is something that you can't compromise on, and you're not making money. But at the same token, you have to deliver the management. Yeah. Like I had an employee that wasn't delivering. So then they would start questioning certain things. And now you come back in, pull the pants up on that product. Now they're like, done, I'll pay it. No problem. But they're not. And then like my guys, like, this is how it should be. I'm like, but the reaction you're seeing is also what they're seeing, is that this is what we should have gotten for the last month and a half. Yeah. So it's a bummer that it got to that point, but I guess I'm not talking to you guys. It's more of like people. It's like, if you're going to charge, like start at $5,000, if you break it down, $400 a week, whatever it is on a project, you have to, I try and over manage. So a client's going to say, I get more of him than, or his team than they're charging. That's my overall goal. You know, it's never like, oh, I'm top heavy on management. If that, I just wouldn't be comfortable that way, that I'm just overcharging for the project. So, but I just think it's funny that people will go, oh, I'll cut some management. And if you knew through experience, if you knew that what it took, that it could cost you, if you weren't there for, you know, that tile set, it could cost you an entire bathroom.
Yeah.
We've always said we can always do less work for less money, but I can't just cut money out. Like, we've never negotiated on price. People will say, you know, well, we really wanted this project at this. Would you do it for less? It was like, we can always do less work for less money. What do you want to cut from the job? I don't have a giant percentage of money to cut from our profit margin because we run really lean. You know, everything's already cut to the bone. So if you want the price to be lower, we're happy to do that. What would you like to cut from the project? And
well, see, the thing is like you're asking them something that they don't know.
well,
You get me? Like you're the pro. It's like, all right, guys, if the only way I see this happening is if we can phase out these parts of the project,
and
is that doable for you?
For sure.
I know. I know we're talking casual here. This happens on the podcast. We talk casually between us, but the
I don't know if you
conversation-
did you see that email, John? I think someone emailed us in exactly what you just said, is that, you know, he's a homeowner. He listened. He actually listened to
Oh,
you
this
guys
is a while ago, right?
No, this was last week when you had Sweeten on, and he wrote in and just said, I really appreciate, you know, the perspective from that podcast, because I listen to you guys, and oftentimes it's actually really daunting and scares the living hell out of me to ever have work done on my home, because, you know, I don't know what my budget is. I don't know what scope I want to do. And it's like, and, you know, I don't want to hop on the phone with one of you guys and me say, my budget's $1 million, and then them hang up on me because it's not enough. He's like, it could be more. I don't necessarily know. And I think it's the same point here, is that, you know, I agree, Travis, like we're the same, where it's like, we don't, I want to say we never negotiate. I can't honestly say that, but, you know, we try very hard never to negotiate our fees, and we certainly don't negotiate management, because it takes, you know, it requires a particular amount of management to run these jobs. You know, we will do that in house, you know, for each job, but never with the client, because we know what it takes. But, you know, it's always the same conversation. It's like, let's cut scope, but we try to have that conversation with, here's ways that we can cut scope. And I think you're probably, you know, headed in that direction,
right.
Where it's like, you have to bring, we have one job right now where, you know, we have to find 7 figures on this job. And it's like, and that's a lot. And it's a really big job, and it's totally doable.
It's at 1.5 right now.
Yeah, right. It's at 1.1. But
it's bathroom,
it's, you know,
big bathroom.
It's like, you know, it's not that's not going to be, you know, our fee or our management. It's going to be a little bit of every single line item, and then some significant scope cuts. It's the only way. It's the only way to act. You know, it's the only way to realistically bring down the cost of a project, while not, you know, while the end result doesn't suffer, you know, for them, and, you know, for whoever's building it.
We often tell clients, this is not the time to do this then. Like, if your budget is that far away, I don't want you to compromise the dream. I don't want to cut scope. I want to build this project the way it was designed. This is a beautiful project. We would be proud of this project. Don't cut it. Let's do this 2 years. Skip your next vacation. Call me next year. Let's get it on the books, and we'll build it. And we've had great success with that. We build beautiful work that way.
Who's taking $1 million vacations?
I was going to say, who's taking a 7-figure vacation?
I don't have 7 figures to cut. That was your problem, Nick. I was on your own with that, brother.
I thought you were giving me advice.
No.
I was going to call them and say, hey, don't take your next vacation and call me next year.
Word on the street is you take $1 million vacations.
The boats that Tyler and John and me pass around each other, those are all 7-figure vacations.
Probably right.
And I'm not even a boat guy.
No,
Just
but
show up
those
my feet.
those yachts are awesome. You can park your yacht in my yacht.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, appreciate you guys being on
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking.
and figuring out the audio.
Sorry for the delay on the front end with the tech stuff.
You're all good.
I feel like we didn't get to talk about half the stuff I wanted to talk about.
It's usually the case.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just
We can skip. We can do another one.
Yes.
All right.
They're never like that's not the problem. That's the nice part about not being structured.
Yeah.
Is that it's just a conversation and we just kind of chill and hang and talk but the bad part is that everyone always looks down and be like, shit, I didn't get anything on my list I brought with me.
That's exactly what I just checked my list. I grabbed a beer for Joe and I was like, all right, so we haven't talked about the symposium. We haven't talked about IBS. We haven't talked about when the right time is to hire a new PM for us. We haven't talked about whether or not our growth model is sustainable. We haven't talked about how to navigate the pandemic on a labor level. And, I got this, my laundry list is, I don't think I checked anything off other than cracking on the hatred of Kansas. So there's a lot to cover for our next visit. Are you guys going to be in Florida for IBS? You guys coming? Can we talk about it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be there. Well, I will.
Well, Joe and I are doing some stuff at the High Performance Building Zone and some stuff with Rockwell. So we'll be down presenting, but we'll have enough time that we can get a drink and eat.
Oh, I'll be at the High Performance Zone with you.
Oh, yeah? Are we cool?
Yeah.
Someone should tell us these things. I feel like we should know.
I don't know what I'm doing.
See, there's the problem. Here we go.
Yeah. It's in my email. I will, I'm doing something with Ben Bogey.
Yeah, he's running that.
Yeah.
Same thing. Same.
Yeah. Cool.
And then you get to mark your calendars to come and take the architectural tour of Kansas City in September, because we do the symposium every September. So
all right,
come down next year.
Cool.
You just missed it.
We didn't know about it.
Really?
Can't say I've been missing it.
It doesn't even count because that's not even in Kansas.
Oh, well done, Tyler. No, it was at Boulevard in Kansas City, Missouri. You got it. But come back next year because we're going to have another good lineup, and you guys can be part of it.
Cool. Well, we'll get you guys back on. If you have that much stuff to talk about, then I'm sure we can get you back on the schedule.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thank you for your time. Appreciate the opportunity. And honestly, really appreciate everything you guys do for the industry. It does make a big
Likewise, man.
Leadership that you guys bring to the table, the quality standard that you're putting out there. That's carrying us all forward. So thank you for all of that.
Likewise, man.
We appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
Nice to meet you guys.
Take it easy, brothers.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
See you guys.
All right, guys. Well, I'm sorry to cut this short, but I got somewhere to be. I got a date.
Damn.
He goes to a date.
I'm just making.
I got a meeting.
I have like. I have a meeting. I have a meeting.
Attaboy.
I have a couple meetings.
You learn something from the podcast.
Yeah. See that? Do we have any? Oh, we do have a couple reviews. I'll read 2 of them. We got, as a newer second generation owner of an electrical contracting company, this speaks to me in so many levels. It's like sitting in on a tradie group therapy. Ha ha ha. Episodes 172 and 188 are the only ones I've heard so far. The insight, frustrations that are discussed, and the conversational format makes it easy to listen during a commute. And then TJOJR said, I started listening early on, close to when you guys first started the podcast. It was the first podcast I ever listened to. That's like the second time I've read that in the last couple of reviews. I fell behind for some time because I started diving into other podcasts. Sorry, but I've been listening to the Modern Craftsman again for a while. The content you put out has been very eye-opening for me for a small remodeling business my dad and I run. So thank you truly. Man, I'm doing terrible today.
You're doing great.
Oh, wait, this is the same one I read before. Also, sorry that I've listened to nearly 100 of the podcasts and I'm now just writing a review. So we read his review again. Guys, make sure you hit iTunes and leave us a review. We're creeping up on 1,000 reviews, and we're maintaining that #1 spot for our industry.
Yeah, I've started responding to people who post the story and be like, hey, appreciate it. Can you leave a review?
Nice.
Um,
That's why they're like, Tyler wrote me back.
Yeah, so I did. So like I would always just repost, and I'm like, damn, this should be this should be an opportunity to be like, hey, instead
Mhm.
of me just reposting saying thank you, like, can you do me a favor and leave a review? So maybe
And just
you
for-
guys can hop on board, and they'll be like,
Just
yo,
a
I already
reminder-
left a review. You said the same thing to me like 6 times. I'll be like, my bad.
It's just cut and paste. And if you want to catch some of the earlier episodes that you can't find on iTunes, they are on Spotify.
Yes.
It's a common question we get.
Cool.
Any constructive criticism, head over to the IG, click on the link, and you can go to the Survey Monkey. You have the option of leaving guest ideas, comments, concerns, rude comments, whatever you want. We read them, digest them, use them as we see fit.
And next week, who do we got? We got Josh Walker from 1620 USA Workwear.
Oh, it's right.
He'll be on next week.
Josh. I think it's going to be 2 of them, both of them, to be honest.
Cool. Guys, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Molding and Millwork. Tired of using plastic and fiber cement on your builds? You're not alone. Discover the tremendous benefits of Duration poly ash products bring to the table and see why users say it checks all the boxes. To learn more about Duration, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com and be sure to check them out on Instagram. This podcast is also brought to you by Rental Run. Rental Run is focused on ensuring the crew is taken care of. So whether it's saving them from a trip to the hardware store or getting coffee to the job site, we've got it covered.
Do you know what I was thinking? Basically, if you have an employee that you're sending to the job site 5 times a month, it's going to take them 2 hours to run to the job site and back. Even if you're paying them $20 an hour without workers' comp, all that stuff, you're at like $200 a month. They have a pro subscription that gives you free deliveries and returns for $199 a month. So it
It's
pays
like getting
for
an
it.
employee.
It pays for except you don't need to have the employee. But that's $200 a month. Would pay for itself pretty quickly. So,
and if you want to test it out with free delivery, go to podcast.rentalrun.com/Modern Craftsman.
We'll probably put that as a link in the notes in iTunes, right?
Yeah, probably.
Driving and stopping to write that down.